about a tired years. I normally am gifted. Oh. I call this meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Fritz? Ms. Neesel?
Here.
Ms. McKinney?
Here.
Ms. Pompey? Ms. Pope? Ms. Weaver?
Here.
Mayor Jordan?
Here. There's Councilmember Pompey. You know, with these weather conditions, it is so difficult to get around. It's really. Hey, don't sit down though, because I'm going to ask you to do the lead us in the pledge. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem, will you read the Greenbelt Pledge?
Sure. The strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation. We celebrate all people. By sharing together, all are enriched. We strive to be a respectful, welcoming community that is open, accessible, safe, and fair.
Thank you so much. And now, if you could join us in a moment of silent reflection as we pause to remember residents or others who have passed away since the last council meeting. I've got one former resident, Helene Pedersoli. Please join us in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you very much. So let me just share this information. Tonight's session is open to the public, as are all council sessions and meetings, except for executive sessions, as authorized by state law. Residents may observe our deliberations, and we'll pause periodically to provide opportunities for public comment. If you wish to speak during these designated comment periods, if you're here in person, just raise your hand and wait to be recognized, then you can go to the podium over there, and you'll need to state your name and address for the record. If you're on Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen or raise your virtual hand. We don't accept anonymous comments from Zoom or from social media. And if you're watching remotely on cable TV or one of the other streaming channels, you can just hit us up, send us an email comment to questions@greenbeltmd.gov. That's the email address. So with petitions and requests, which is the section of the agenda that we're about to go to, we need you to limit your remarks to 5 minutes, and it's 3 minutes during the rest of the meeting. So in general, with public comment, just please address only the topic under consideration, and we ask that you remain civil and avoid disparaging others or questioning their motives. So at this time, we are going to go to petitions and requests. All petitions are recorded by the city clerk to share with the administration, to research and determine next steps. And we do respond in a timely manner. We make the determination what the appropriate response will be. So at this time, let me ask the question, are there any petitions or requests? Please, sir.
Mr. Mayor, while we wait for citizens to come up, I would like just for the record that you have all council members in attendance, including Councilmember Pope, who's online.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much. Did you state your name and address? You did? Okay. I'd like to have the city manager, perhaps you can address this topic in general during the administrative reports. Are there any other petitions or requests? Please, sir.
To organize so they should not attempt to influence the board decisions. Employees in any department of the city to do this.
Thank you so much. Are there any petitions or requests? Any others? Anybody online looking to make a comment?
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I
Good
can.
evening.
Good evening. I just wanted, and I sent a text message to Josue, but when someone is at the podium, there is no sound. So we couldn't hear anything.
Oh my, thank you for alerting us to that. We'll take a look and see if we can fix that. But we can hear it in council chambers, and we are recording this and streaming it, so although you might not be able to hear it on Zoom, it's conceivable that it might be going out. It will be included on the YouTube recording, and perhaps on cable TV. I don't know.
James is checking on it, and we'll follow up. But the petitions and requests from the two citizens will be recorded nonetheless. And just to summarize that, the first petition was for removal of the requirement of the sidewalk clearing, which I will provide an update during administrative report. And the second is the citizen wants to see the directive by the city manager regarding the prohibiting the anti-union activities in the city.
Well, thank you so much. So, hearing no additional petitions or requests, let's move to the next section of the agenda, and that would be the consent agenda. If there are no modifications, can I please have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Councilmember Niesel seconded. And let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And that's going to bring us to the actual agenda. If there are no modifications to the agenda, could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Councilmember Niesel, you are on the case tonight. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries as well. Thank you so much. So at this time, we're honored to welcome Tom Harrington, who is the Multimodal Program Planning Director for the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. And he's going to share an important presentation on building bridges for a stronger DMV region. As many of you know, public transit is the backbone of a regional economy and quality of life, and this DMV Moves initiative represents a historic collaboration between the Council of Governments, WMATA, and jurisdictions across Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. So I see that Mr. Harrington is online. Can we promote him so that he can speak and join us?
Yep. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Harrington. Welcome. It's great to have you here.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Let's see, can we give him the...
Yes, yes, we can share the screen.
Okay.
See, how's that? Oh, sure.
I was just going to say, Greenbelt, we've long championed sustainable transportation from our Greenbelt Road Corridor Plan to metro trail connections, and tonight's discussion is going to help us understand how this fits into the region's plans and the funding proposal, bus priority networks, so that our residents can benefit, and so that we can continue to support complete streets throughout Greenbelt in the region. So,
Oh, excellent. Yeah, good evening, Mayor Jordan, members of council. I'm Tom Harrington, Multimodal Planning Program Director for COG in the Department of Transportation Planning. My presentation tonight will primarily focus on the DMV Moves initiative between Metro and COG. But I'm going to start just with a quick introduction about the Council of Governments for those who maybe are less familiar. So COG is focused on regional issues, and public transportation is certainly a great example of how interconnected the region is. We live, work, and play across boundaries every day, and that's true when we get on the road system or when we get on transit. And again, with 24 local government members, COG's the one place in our tri-state region that brings together leaders from DC, Maryland, and Virginia to tackle all the common issues we're dealing with and to plan for the future. COG's also home to the region's Metropolitan Planning Organization. That's the National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board, one of 400 MPOs in the country. MPOs ensure that major transportation projects are eligible to receive federal funding, and that means projects have to be included in the region's long-range plan and also in the shorter-term transportation improvement program. So COG's main focus areas include transportation, public safety, community planning, and the environment. In transportation, TPB recently approved the region's latest long-range plan, that's Visualize 2050, which consists of highway and transit projects totaling nearly $300 billion that the region expects to fund through the year 2050. COG also helps fund projects around the region, and actually close to $1 million have been received by the city in recent transportation funds through some of our grant programs. We also like to point out cooperative purchasing is a great way that our members save money through purchasing, and the city of Greenbelt has participated in some of those purchasing programs for things like fuel and road salt, which is quite timely this week. And just to kind of give you a little background on COG's revenue. So 9% of our revenues come from member dues, but that helps leverage $41 million in federal and state funding to the region. And then just finally, here's City of Greenbelt's member dues for COG, and just again comparing member dues with the funds such as the $1 million back in grants. So that was just the quick introduction on the Council of Governments, my employer. But why don't we turn the page here to DMV Moves. So tonight's presentation comes after a significant milestone in November when the COG and Metro boards met jointly to endorse the DMV Moves plan. And that involved a lot of hard work by stakeholders and agency officials around the region who helped define what's needed to achieve world-class transit in our region. We're fortunate to have one of the best transportation systems, best transit systems in the U.S. In fact, Metro was named APTA's Transit Agency of the Year in 2025. But we still have challenges on the transit front. So first is a funding crisis. So coming out of the pandemic, many transit agencies were having revenue issues. Metro's issues, on the operating side, they actually rebounded particularly in the past year as ridership came back to the system. But on the capital side, Metro has some structural capital funding issues. They have always been needing a dedicated funding source, and the current funding sources are basically the debt capacity would be exhausted by 2028. So unless that's addressed, capital funding will drop off significantly, leading to sort of more state of good repair in the backlog. Another challenge in this region is that both a challenge and an opportunity, is that we have a complex network of operators. We have 14 transit operators, 12 bus systems, and they all have their own guidelines. They have their own sort of standards for service, and we need to coordinate and integrate those services to provide seamless travel across the region for riders. So to address these urgent needs, the COG and Metro boards came together to create the DMV Moves initiative, and it was governed by a task force of regional elected officials and supported by advisory groups made up of a local agency and regional stakeholders. The DMV Moves plan was released in November, and just to give you the quick summary of it, there are 4 key components of the plan. So first, there's a Metro funding plan, and in the plan, it recommends $460 million per year in new capital funding for Metro, and that would be indexed to grow at 3% a year. So that escalation that wasn't in the last funding agreement would be part of this. And that dedicated funding allows Metro to bond and to do long-term capital planning. And Metro's highlighted that modernizing the Metro Rail system is one of their top priorities. So replacing the outdated signal system for Metro Rail is a key way they would invest those new capital funds. The plan identifies local bus funding needs, what it would take to meet service guidelines around the region, but it doesn't identify a funding source in the plan for local bus needs, but those have been identified. It also doesn't include some of the expansion, such as commuter rail expansion of MARC and VRE, even though those are discussed in the plan. One of the key elements of the plan is a partnership for bus priority. So Metro and really all the region has pointed to speeding up buses, having fast, frequent, reliable bus service as a key need in the region, and that actually by improving the service, you attract ridership, but you also improve the efficiency of the system, and that brings down operating costs for all bus operators. And then the fourth piece is an action plan for transit integration, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But that's really to create that seamless travel around the region. So the action plan for integration is organized around 6 areas. So the bus priority that I just mentioned, but also things like service guidelines for bus operators, having more fare integration so that fare policies are the same around the region, customer information and sort of what's available at a bus stop, procurement opportunities, looking for ways to share those among agencies, and then consistent training among transit agencies. So the action plan called for the region's transit providers to work together to make these sort of more integrated. I'm going to talk a little more about the bus priority concept. So that calls for 7 corridors around the region, and as you can see here, these were identified really based on, these are the corridors that have the high ridership and the high potential for growth. So these are the ones that Metro prioritizes having the biggest impact on their operating efficiency, but also that would move the most riders. But it doesn't preclude more sort of BRT or bus priority planning around the region. And it also has the corridor through the core of this system that would help with some of the Metro Rail, the blue, orange, silver crowding issues. So the task force was committed to working together, but did not agree on a regional pot of money or source for bus rapid transit or bus priority. TPB is now working to develop a plan to identify roles and responsibilities for each of the corridors. So that's kind of a next step for us as we work to implement the plan. So kind of to wrap up here, we're at a pivotal moment. Public transit agencies have stabilized operations and their revenues coming out of the pandemic, but the system will always require ongoing capital maintenance. And without action at this time, we risk undermining the progress we've made. Our ask to the region is to help advocate for legislation and secure the new Metro funding. So TPB recently endorsed the plan and also accepted its role as lead coordinator of the DMV Moves implementation, the action plan. And COG is now meeting with our city and county partners, as we're doing tonight, to spread the message and get support to implement the plan recommendations. And I understand work's already underway in the state legislatures and in Maryland. There's a draft bill to look at new funding for Metro. That would start in fiscal year 2029. So it's still not until July of 2028 where that funding is needed, but that's why the work needs to start now to be prepared for that point. So in closing, DMV Moves offers a path forward, one that's regional, sustainable, forward-looking, and through this unified vision for transit, we can build a more seamless network for our riders. So thank you very much for your time, and happy to take any questions at this point.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Harrington. That was a really quick overview of a project that's been in the works for a while. I know our city manager has actually participated on the DMV Moves task force looking at these integration and funding challenges. I sit on the COG board, and we endorsed the plan along with the WMATA board last month in December, and TPB, the Transportation Planning Board, Mayor Pro Tem, sits on that body, and I know you said that they're working on that right now.
That's right.
Got a couple of quick questions. How do you see Greenbelt specifically benefiting from the DMV Moves Bus Priority Network and funding plan, given our ongoing projects, Cherrywood Lane, Complete Street, the Hanover Parkway Bike and Pedestrian Trail, and also the 193 road corridor discussions we've been having. So how could the city of Greenbelt and small, we're a relatively small jurisdiction. We're not the smallest, but on the COG membership. So how specifically would you envision us benefiting from this plan?
Yeah. So again, Metro and COG, we worked together on the plan. This initial phase is one that Metro identified as phase one. And again, the idea here is let's prove that bus priority works and it makes the system more efficient. And then that certainly can be expanded to other parts of the region. One thing I didn't mention in my presentation is that while DMV Moves was happening, Metro also rolled out a better bus network redesign last year. And that had big implications for bus service all over the region, including in Greenbelt. And so the two go hand in hand. What Metro is saying is it's not enough just to put out good frequent bus service, because if buses are stuck in traffic congestion, that means over time it costs more money every year to put out the same level of service. So I think that's where the connection immediately comes from this bus priority, is the more that Metro can put priority in place in the sort of most heavily used segments of the system, that'll make Metro Bus more efficient, and that'll lead to their ability to put out more service really around the region. So I think the two are connected, as you're saying, and although there's not a segment identified in phase one within Greenbelt, again, if this is a success, I'm sure it will be expanded to more places.
Yeah, I'd love to see a bus rapid transit coming down from Merkirk, down Edmondson and Kenilworth Avenue, down through Greenbelt and East-West Highway and down towards Bladensburg. That would really make a lot of sense. Council members, you probably have some comments or some thoughts. Well, and Mr. Summerone, you served on the DMV Moves task force. Any comments?
No, Mr. Mayor, this the DMV moves proposal that's included in the packet. It's what the task force presented to COG and WMATA. So this is it's been vetted by the transit providers and municipalities that were invited to attend.
Mr. Harrington, is there an opportunity just in terms of as this moves ahead for us as a municipality to weigh in on this or the Better Bus Plan? I think the Better Bus Plan did not benefit Greenbelt quite as we actually had some reductions in service. So, and if you look at the map, the timing, we're not high priority. Of course, we want to be the highest priority, but maybe that's not realistic. But are there opportunities for us to weigh in going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the action last week where the Transportation Planning Board took on the role as kind of lead coordinator, that means that we want all of the member jurisdictions of the TPB to participate. There'll be both briefings to TPB, but also an annual report. And we're really going to use the technical committee at COG to help make the tough decisions about, I think particularly this regional integration plan, that's going to benefit any transit rider in the region. So I think this is where there's still an opportunity for input and kind of helping move towards a better transit system, both metro, but also the local bus systems. And so this is a key part of where we need help, really from local government and from everyone in the region to implement these recommendations.
Okay, well, we do have a resolution later to endorse the plan. I think there's a comment from the public. Please.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. Wondering, one thing that Robert Goldberg Strasser pointed out was that there's no mention of metro access or accessibility issues of the transportation system. I thank him for that. What I wanted to ask was that one of the biggest obstacles for activist Greenbelters is getting to Annapolis to petition our state government and the General Assembly. There's currently no real convenient or affordable. Yes.
We're having some audio difficulties, Mr. Summerone.
It's not making its way to Zoom, so Mr.
Okay.
Harrington's not going to be able to hear you. Michael, do you mind coming up here and using my microphone? I'm sorry. We've lost a switch in the studio, and it turns out that it's more complicated than just replacing a switch.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. Thank you to Robert Goldberg Strasser for pointing out that there's no mention of accessibility or metro access in the presentation, and that is an issue on all of the bus and transportation lines. As I said, one of the biggest problems for activists and involved people in Greenbelt is accessible, convenient public transportation between Greenbelt and Annapolis. And I'm wondering where that fits in, if there is an administrative solution or a legislative solution. If it's administrative, would you support that? Also council, if it's legislative, would you support that? But it's not easy to get to Annapolis from here and other places around the region so that we can petition our state government in Annapolis.
Thank you. Mr. Hartman, you're spot on. There is one bus that goes from New Carrollton out to Annapolis, and it only goes 3 or 4 times a day. It's very difficult. But I want to ask Mr. Harrington about the metro access piece. Can you speak to how thoughts around mobility for people with challenges fit into the plan?
Yeah, I mean, it is correct that the plan itself is focused on fixed route bus and rail systems. That said, the the customer facilities piece of the regional integration plan is looking at bus stop standards around the region. So in terms of the access to transit in your neighborhood, in terms of bus stops, that's an issue that we do have a working group that started last year. We're reconvening it pretty soon to really look at how we can make sure that bus stops are accessible, and that, you know, in terms of getting there, but also the information that's provided about service. The paratransit service is something that we at TPB do look at periodically through a coordinated health and human services transportation plan, and we will be embarking on an update of that in the coming year. So while not addressed directly in DMV moves, you know, it's a critical issue and certainly will be looked at at TPB.
Thank you. If it is that critical, why isn't it included?
Yeah, and I can't speak to in terms of Metro's funding, but I suspect it's looking at how these things are funded, that the bus and the rail system piece of it, you know, was the part that where that capital funding is so critical for that new Metro funding. But you know, again, we know it's a big piece of the puzzle in terms of the regional transportation system.
Well, then I would suggest that it should be in your report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we have one council member. Did you have a comment? Please.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the report. Quick question. I'm looking on page 14 of the report where it's talking about the recommendations and the action areas. And I'm just wondering I'm not sure if it would be covered under customer information or facilities, but one of the things that we've heard from residents in the community is how do we make sure we're getting up-to-date and timely information on transit options while they're actually at the bus stop. So a lot of times people are out there waiting and they're not getting the most up-to-date information on when buses are actually coming. And I'm wondering if that is built into one of these recommendations. If so, could it just be called out a little bit better?
Yeah. It is called out, it is in the area of customer information facilities, and specifically Metro has said that they want to take a bigger role in improving the customer information, and also the sort of the phone line that you see at every bus stop, the phone number. I mean, having them help more centrally field calls and direct calls to the right person. So it would be both the online information you get through an app, but also if someone has a question about service and so forth, the bus. But I think, you know, right now there is good information, but sometimes depending on which operator you're at, you may have to go to different sources for information. And one of the recommendations was, how can we integrate that so it's more of a one-stop where you go and you get the information regardless of which type of bus you're getting on, because the customer is not focused on that. They know their bus route and where they want to go. And so having that be a little more consistent is really what the recommendation's about.
Okay, and we need to move on. I see there's one more public comment, so we'll take one more comment before we move on, if that's okay. Yeah, please, sir. Mr. Summerall, this might work?
Bill Owens again. I was going to raise the question when the resolution was going to be considered, but since Tom may not be sticking around, I'm glad to make a comment now.
Testing.
First off, just for me. First, though, with regard to the customer service phone number that's on bus stop flags, WMATA has cut back considerably in recent years on the hours of operation of that number. So if one is very early at the bus stop or after evening hours, somewhere around 7 o'clock, you can call that number and you'll get no response. WMATA, if it was interested in meeting the needs of real-time needs of riders after 7 o'clock, they should extend the hours of the operations center. But what was going to raise during the resolution and am raising now, it may be fine and dandy that our mayor served on the DMV Moves task force, or that our city manager served on the governance committee working group of the task force. The fact is that in 2.5 years of work, none of the work of the task force, none of the work of the advisory committees, government and community work groups is available to the riding public or to any of the public in the DMV and WMATA's transit zone, which is all the larger jurisdictions surrounding the district, including the district. There's no minutes of those meetings. There's not even summaries of discussion of those meetings. All of this was done behind closed doors. And while I'm happy that Mr. Salamarone might have been participating in some of those discussions, no resident of Greenbelt can know the decisions made. And that's something that should be corrected. The DMV Moves Task Force should release, at least minimally, summaries of discussion of all the meetings of both the task force and the subsidiary working groups. Lastly, this was all done with the intent of arriving at its conclusion with dedicated sustainable funding. And there is no dedicated sustainable funding outlined in the report. It's simply another request to the jurisdictions, the District, Maryland, and Virginia, to come up with the money. There would have been an opportunity, had the task force wanted to do so, to suggest that WMATA should have its own taxing authority, so that WMATA on its own could tax the commercial entities benefiting from proximity to metro rail stations and mainline bus corridors. But the task force chose not to do that for whatever reason.
Thank you. You're at the time
This is
limit
a good
there.
plan that
Thank you, sir.
doesn't meet its initial intention,
Thank you
and,
so much.
and it was done behind closed doors.
I believe the doors were actually open. COG. Anybody want to comment on that? The doors were actually open.
There were the task force meetings were invite only, but there were Tom may correctly, but I understand that there was at least one meeting held with the general public about the work of the DMV Moves work. Now the work that the task force was putting together, the final product, is the report that came out of the DMV Moves. So a lot of the work that happened or discussions that happened in the meeting was getting feedback from the consultants and the teams and the various providers about how to formulate all of these recommendations. And the end product is the final report. So, I don't know, Mr. Harrington, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that's correct. And I also would caution that the report and the recommendations of the report give us the direction, the outcome of where we want to go, but there's still some of that hard work of actually moving into implementation still remains. And that's why we're going to use the Transportation Planning Board as a way to bring this information out. It'll be, in our public board meetings, where we'll share the details of implementation as we move to that next phase. So, again, the advisory group, we had a government partners advisory group and a community partners advisory group. So really met frequently throughout the development of the DMV Moves process. And so, that getting that stakeholder input was critical to the final plan that's out there now.
Okay, real quick, Councilmember Fritz.
I do appreciate the presentation. It's very helpful. The corridors continue to follow the kind of north-south pathway, which is commuter traffic generally. And, I think that there are corridors and that was the whole point of the Purple Line. And as the Purple Line comes out, we're seeing more east-west connections between suburban areas as well. But connections between Greenbelt and New Carrollton, I think, are just as important. So I'm excited for this phase to be unrolled. I hope that it is successful and it creates more momentum for deeper reach into our neighborhoods, really helping folks get to the transit hubs, and connecting the ends of the lines to each other. Because if you want to get to New Carrollton, you have to go around the entire system. And if you want to get to New Carrollton to take that bus to Annapolis, you have to take the system all the way into DC and transfer. I'll just say about transportation funding, I agree. I would just say that transportation funding, the committee is made up of mostly elected officials, so they were recommending what they politically thought they could do. So I think asking the task force to recommend something is a little bit backwards. The task force is just a representation of what these collected officials from around the region already think, but I do think we need to be talking more specifically about revenue streams, especially looking at the yawning inequality we have in this part of the country. There's a lot of people who are doing very well financially, and there's a lot of people who are struggling. And we know transit riders are some of the lowest income people in our society. Sometimes median income's below $50,000, below $30,000 a year of the people who take the bus. So, fares are not the equitable way to fund our way out of our transportation problems. So looking at progressive measures, those are going to have to come out of Richmond, Annapolis, and DC. It's not going to come out of the task force, and that's going to require more advocacy. And I think here in Greenbelt, we'd want more progressive ways to raise revenue as well, not just looking at the general property tax, for example.
And I know our Senator Malcolm Augustine down in District 47, I believe he is the one that is putting together a bill to try and meet the funding needs, imperatives that are associated with WMATA funding this year and going forward. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to make this presentation and keep us posted. Thank you so much.
Will, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, at this time, we've got a couple of proclamations. The first, Black History Month. Joe Parks, Lois Rosado, and members of the Greenbelt Black History Committee and Culture Committee are here. As we prepare to enter the month of February, it's my honor to present a proclamation recognizing Black History Month and celebrating this year's theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations. Would you like to come forward? Good evening. Whereas Black American History Month is observed in February of each year and affords a special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about the heritage of African Americans and to honor African Americans who have contributed to the progress of our nation. And whereas Black American History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, founded by Carter G. Woodson in 1915, selects a theme each year for the observation of Black History Month. And whereas this year, the 2026 theme is A Century of Black History Commemoration, celebrating 100 years of formally recognizing Black history in the U.S., exploring how these commemorations have shaped identity, fostering pride, advancing equality. Now, whereas the strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation and celebrates all people. By sharing together, we're all enriched. Now, therefore, I, Eric B. Jordan, by the powers vested in me by the residents and City Council of Greenbelt, hereby proclaim the month of February 2026 as Black American History Month in the city of Greenbelt. And we do urge residents to join together in the celebration by participating in the wide variety of events held in Greenbelt and throughout the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. I'd like to present this proclamation to you guys, all of you. Get up. Council, why don't you stand up? Thank you so much. Thank you. So there's quite a few events coming up throughout the month, and Dr. Rosado or...
Oh, this one's working.
This one.
And that one's working.
This one's working. Got to give it back to you.
Thank you. Yes, the Greenbelt News Review this weekend published a list of the programs, and I'm very happy to see that. And I just want to first thank all the groups and organizations that are participating. The Golden Gate Club, the Review Cafe, the Peace and Justice Coalition, the Greenbelt Cinema. So I think each year different institutions participate. And of course, our sponsors are the Greenbelt Recreation Department, RUAC, who's here represented by its founder, and the Greenbelt Rotary Club this year will be joining us and will be awarding the essay contest winners, students, their prizes. So we're very happy about that. So Monday, we'll start with the Harlem Art Party, and then on the 7th, the pop-up museum, and the Times will also come to the Greenbelt News Review, and on the 8th, we will be having our opening art exhibition, but the paintings are presently up in at the Media Cafe. You can see them now. And then, of course, Bartow Afternoon will also be in the Springfield Executive Center. The Golden Age Club will be presenting and his topic this year is to follow the path of liberty, England and the Americas during the War of Independence. We're celebrating our 250th anniversary this year. That should be a very interesting presentation. Real and Neil is going to have what they call the Black Power mixtape, 1957 to 75, and then they're going to have Angela Davis, and they'll have Newton, and they'll have Martin, and they'll have different activists from that period speaking, and especially about the COINTELPRO program that decimated a lot of very progressive groups and organizations. Saturday is our Greenbelt Black History Culture presentation. We will start with our student essay contest winners. They'll read their award-winning essay, and then we're going to have three reenactments. One is a descendant of the woman who actually started one of the oldest HBCUs in Virginia, Mary Upton, and her descendant is Dr. Helen, who is actually a teacher at the University of Maryland. And then some of you may know John McCasker. John McCasker is often at the College Park Indian Museum. Then we're also going to have Marquette, his last name I'm forgetting, but he's coming from the African American Civil War Memorial Museum. So they're going to be presenting, of course, there'll be Q&A, and I think it will be a very lovely afternoon for people to come and listen.
Thank you, and thanks to the entire committee for all of the work that you do. Wonderful events in Greenbelt, around the area, and the College Park Museum, the College Park Air Museum. There's a wonderful exhibit on the Columbia Airfield, which was an African-American airfield that was actually located in the Croom Airport area. And I believe Maryland National Capital Park and Planning is having a kickoff event for Black History Month on Sunday the 1st. So there's just a lot of things going on. At this time, I do want to move to present a proclamation marking January 27th. Yesterday is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. November 21st, 2005, the United Nations General Assembly designated this date to mark the liberation of Auschwitz, Birkenau, and to remember the 6 million Jewish victims of the Holocaust, along with the millions of others persecuted by the Nazis. This year's theme, Holocaust Remembrance for Dignity and Human Rights, reminds us of the profound connection between remembering these atrocities and our ongoing responsibility to defend dignity, combat anti-Semitism, and to uphold human rights in every generation. I've got a proclamation. Robert, would you like to receive this? Whereas on November 21st, 2005, the United Nations General Assembly adopted that Resolution 60/7, which designated January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day, and whereas the International Holocaust Remembrance Day marks the liberation of Auschwitz. We did have this scheduled for the council meeting on Monday, but it snowed.
It's my honor, since I am a Holocaust survivor as well. I'd like to honor yeah, that working? Yeah, I'd like to honor those people, and I bear witness to others that are dying due to man's inhumanity to man. Those people like George Floyd, Renee Good, and Alex Preddy. I would like to do the Hebrew, actually it's Aramaic, Kaddish.
Sorry, Robert. Not part of yours.
Test. Test. This works.
That working now? Okay. No, I'm fine. I'd like to do the Kaddish, which is the mourner's prayer. Yeskadav, Yeskadash, Shemei Rabah, V'yamor Divrochi Rekei, V'yamlik Malchutei, V'chayekon V'yomechon, of Chaye de Kol Beis Yisrael, Bagolo, V'zman Karib, V'yamru Amen, Yeshmei Rabah, V'navorak, V'yolom, V'yomei Amaya, Yisbarak, V'yishtabak, V'yisbarav, V'yisraman, V'yisnaseh, V'yisadar, V'yisadeh, V'yisalel, V'salah, Shemei de Kushabrichu, Li'elo, Minchal Berkota, V'shirota, Tushbachota, V'nechamota, Da'amiram, V'yavam, Omar, V'yamra, Omei, Yesh Lama Rabba Mishmaya, V'yachal Yolam, Shemaya, Amay, V'yamar, Omein, Osesh Lam B'mumaf, Yatzeh Shalom Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael V'yamru, Amen. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to move on to the next section, Section 3 legislation, and we are going to consider the resolution to endorse the COG DMV moves funding proposal. This is for first reading. So we've talked about this. We got the presentation. We know the outlines of the proposal. It's a plan. It's a roadmap to get to where we need to continue to have one of the best transit systems, bus and rail in the nation. So there's a critical funding gap coming up before fiscal year 2029. So this plan is a move that will keep us in the right direction. Oh, no. Oh, man. Mr. Summeron, administrative report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could we get a motion on the minutes first?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. We're going to go to administrative report. Thank you.
Hello? All right, it's working. All right, it's amazing how much we've covered in the last reporting period. And before I get to snow and the arrest of Elsa and Frozen, I will cover my administrative report. We are continuing to work on the 2027 budget preparations with all the departments, and I think you're all aware that we have a major task ahead of us. we've reviewed the economic development manager position. Just as a reminder, unfortunately and regrettably, we've lost Mr. John Mason to the Prince George's Economic Development Corporation, but we have gained a friend in the Prince George's Economic Development Corporation. So I'm happy for John. I'm happy for the team. They recruited a great economic development manager in the region. I also look forward to working with that office with her former council member for District 4, Ms. Ingrid Watson. So I think we have some good relationships in that department now, and look forward to working with them. On other economic development news, thank you all for coming out to the Chickalicious ribbon cutting. It was delicious. Really good halal chicken. I got to meet the managers and the owner and the manager, and just their process is really good. I'm really excited for them and for us to have another halal restaurant. Also, thank you all for your support on the resource fair that was held on Sunday, the 18th. It was well attended. We provided groceries for 150 individuals. The timing, it was on a Saturday. We're looking to do another one in the near future, and just as a reminder of why we hosted that fair, that was part of our violence interruption strategy in Greenbelt West. So we wanted to provide resources in the community on times that it's not common for us to have events, and that's on a Sunday. Obviously, the timing overlap with other functions, particularly the local churches had service at that time, but nonetheless, it was well attended. We are continually working on implementing the facade improvement grant that we were awarded. As a reminder, we applied for $150,000 for facade improvement in the city. This was the first time we received such funding, and so we'll be setting that up in the coming weeks and releasing the application process for businesses to apply for facade improvement grants. We had a very productive meeting with Verizon on the persistent cell issues. So we've opened a ticket for network and cell signal analysis, and they've committed to having a public meeting with us. So we're in the process of scheduling the town hall. They being Verizon, understands the issues, and are working to address those within Greenbelt, but also within the surrounding communities. And recently they held a town hall in Cheverly. And speaking today with the team, we were debating whether we should just have it with just one provider, that being Verizon, or include the others, which are T-Mobile and AT&T. But given that the primary concerns are around Verizon, we would seek to have just one provider in attendance. We have provided notice to proceed on the community center elevators with council's approval of that contract. The team is looking to meet that deadline of 6 months, so we'll be looking at a July-August installation date, which coincides with among our busiest season in the community center. So we will work around that. We will find a way to minimize the impact to programming in the center. The alternative will be finding a slower period at the community center, but there really isn't. There really isn't one. Also, exciting news, we have received the permit, notice to proceed with our EV charging station installations at the community center. I know, after a really long time. Our Save As You Throw program is going well. Obviously, we've had a hiccup this week with the snowstorm that we have, so that interrupted our plans for what would have been week 3 and 4. But that program is continuing. Our violations were significantly reduced. We have not seen a significant spike in new max ticker purchases, so we think that the subscriptions has settled with regards of the people that are buying the max stickers versus the bag. So I think we'll have a good number to track now. And council will be hearing to include any reports, and in later meetings you will hear on the 2 projects that our community development team has reviewed, and that is the Spring Hill Lake Elementary mandatory referral and the countywide transportation plan. All right, now on to snow. We've had a significant snowstorm. It is the ice too, and really frigid temperatures with a potential for more snow in the weekend. However, the model for that weather system is still being developed, so we're not sure what that impact will be. However, the team is planning for a weather event for the weekend, so we want to make sure that our teams are rested. So just a quick recap, we had our teams come in on Saturday at 10 o'clock as we were expecting the storm to come in earlier. Initial projections had the storm starting as early as 10 a.m. on Saturday, and then it kept getting pushed back. It eventually snowed at 12. Snow came in around 12:30 a.m. on Sunday, so Saturday or Sunday night. And we had our streets teams on call, actively working for a 20-hour shift, and at that point we had to make a call, and we relieved the team, and they came back the following day. I think we've done a really good job at staying ahead of the storm. We've got and clearing snow off our roadways. Again, we're really proud of the work of our team. We're among the first to have passable roads and then bare asphalt and bare roads. So we were able to have safer streets for people to move in and out of the city. The work over the last 2 days have been primarily snow relocation, and the task has been made difficult by what is now ice. So you've seen a lot of bobcats around the city center, and we're using bobcats and loaders to relocate ice. But recovery is going well. We were able to open the city on Tuesday on a 2-hour delay, and we were able to open today on a 2-hour delay. On the first day, none of these openings have been really out of sync with what other folks are doing. On Tuesday, Bowie opened with a delay. The state opened at 10 a.m. with a delay. Laurel opened with a delay. College Park, and so us opening on a 2-hour delay was in line with other similar municipalities were doing. The county did close on Tuesday, but they did open today at normal hours, their normal schedule. We decided to open on a 2-hour delay just to allow for more time for people to get into the city, given that more municipalities were opening today, so I expected a spike in traffic, and we wanted to ensure that folks could get to work safely. Want to close out with saying that this work wouldn't be possible, or our recovery wouldn't be possible with a wonderful team that we have in Public Works, in our communications team, our police department is really a team effort. And this year we were exceptional with our communication, photos and advisories, and I want to thank James and the team for putting out great information out there. So thank you. All right, now on to the arrest of Elsa from Frozen. We received inquiries from people asking if they could walk on the lake. And no, they can't. And so the police department really put out a really nice advisory with the picture of Elsa from Frozen that she was trying to freeze the lake. But in order for a lake to be walkable, it really requires an extended period of cold. Really, we're talking about 3 weeks and on below freezing temperatures. And that hasn't happened, and we see that unlikely happening, so we ask our residents to not walk on the lake. I know it was done in the 80s and 90s, but our advisory is that please don't do it. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate the update. This ice storm, the snow and the ice, is just such an intense thing for a city our size, or for the county, the whole region, really the whole mid-Atlantic to deal with. It's been a long time since I've seen this much ice. So, what's the word on the schools? Have they decided to close on Friday as well? Because I know the parking lots are literally glazed with ice, a foot of ice.
Yes, the schools have announced a closure through Friday. I visited the schools today because it was I wanted to assess how ready they were to open in the event that we needed to pitch in. But the parking lots and the entrances of our local schools have been cleared, but they're not opening until next week. Which reminds me, Mr. Mayor, that There are schools have been selected for meals distribution, and among them is the Greenbelt Middle School. And today we provided a shuttle to transport families from the school to their homes. Many of them are walking to the schools to get their food. So we provided a shuttle. We staffed it with a driver, and Ms. Giselle Alvarez was there to staff it from our side. That shuttle will be available tomorrow. I believe James has put out the information, and so folks can utilize that shuttle to get from the school to their home. If there are individuals that are struggling to get there, I think they can call our office and we can look to arrange transportation to the school. But we decided on that process because it's easier to. We saw the greater need of people picking up the food and needing to get home with food in their hands, and the coordination of picking up folks. We just didn't have a phone line set up to be able to take those requests. So we were working on the fly, and this is the best we could do with a short time frame. The second thing that you remind me with your inquiry, Mr. Mayor, is that Recreations team did an amazing job opening up 2 centers on Tuesday. So we're able to open up the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center from 12 to 5 and the youth center, and we open those today as well. And tomorrow we expect to open regular operating hours. And so that wouldn't be possible without the commitment and great teamwork of our recreations team.
What about the trash collection and the sidewalks? We got the petition from Robert about waiving enforcement on, I believe it's county regulations in place where people are expected to clear their sidewalks within 48 hours of a snowstorm, but it's pretty much impossible to do. If you didn't do that on Monday or Sunday, it's a solid block of ice. So what's our policy? How are we going to move forward on that? And with trash collection, are we back on schedule just in terms of the day?
We'll be back on schedule on Friday. We've had to shift our trash collection days, so we resumed to today. Part of what was driving the delay on the trash collection were 2 things. One, some of the courts in City Center were impassable, so our team just couldn't get to within a lot of the courts. So we decided to push collection back another day so canceling Monday and Tuesday and starting today. The second factor to that decision is that Prince George's County landfill closed, and they had announced a closure through Wednesday. So, we are able to pick up the trash, but we got to take it somewhere, and the trucks can only hold certain capacity. It was not until Monday night that the county, after much discussion and our county-wide emergency management call, that the county decided to open on Tuesday the landfill. But at that point, we had already made our plans to not pick up on Tuesday, so we shifted the schedule to Wednesday. We expect to catch up with all solid waste and recycling for the most part up until Friday. The recycling on Friday, we're unsure that we'll be able to do that just because of the workload on picking up a 5-day schedule on a 3-day schedule. Okay, now on the sidewalks. We do enforce the county's regulations on clearing requirements of the sidewalks after 48 hours from a storm ending. Thank you, Mr. Roberts, on the information about DC suspending the sidewalk shoveling. I have the program up on my screen. There are specific exemptions for the DC program. And I think we are accommodating some of these exemptions. So the program, and I'll read the first 3 sentences because it says it all. The Department of Public Works is charged with enforcing of Winter Sidewalk Safety Act, which requires DC residents to remove snow and ice from paved sidewalks, curb ramps, and curbs cut abutting their property after a snowstorm. Qualified residents who are disabled and are 65 years or older are exempt from enforcement with an approved exemption. The sidewalk shoveling program exempts qualified residents from enforcement by DPW for not removing snow or ice from their sidewalks within the 8 hours of daylight after the end of a winter storm. This exemption is valid for 2 executive snow season. Once approved, residents must apply. So that's the program, and they suspended the fees for these individuals. Currently, we do work with our residents that have a justifiable reason such as age and disability from the sidewalk. We try working with those residents, connected them with resources to get those sidewalks clear. So my intent that I'll encourage code enforcement to continue that practice. For the commercial sectors and all the other properties, I think in the interest of public safety, I think that we should continue enforcement. Any flexibility, I think we could look at flexibility in the fine and looking at the age and disability piece. But I think it's important that we try to get on the other side of the storm to ensure safe passages for everyone who uses our sidewalks and roads.
We need to do the best that we can and urge all of our residents to do the best that they can as well. But it's solid ice. And even for schools to open up on Monday, so many of our students walk to school, and the overpass is frozen solid, and so many other sidewalks are just inaccessible. And also, I mean, there are cars that are just, trapped. So what is the policy on that? If your car is completely snowed in and plowed in, do you just leave it?
Well, if they are going to clear their cars, we ask that they find the safest place to put any ice that's around the car. A lot of our residents are just throwing it right back on the road. And so our plows are just continuously driving around the city, just pushing it back onto the side, right? With the exception of areas where we can get a loader and the bobcats to relocate the snow. Yeah, with these freezing temperatures, this ice is not going to melt soon enough.
I know that this might not be in our jurisdiction. One, I appreciate the fact that Public Works came through in Greenbelt Station, like, I swear it was like an hour after the snow finished, so I appreciate that. When you come out of Greenbelt Station and you turn on Greenbelt Road, there's the bus stop that is actually really heavily used by the students. That is the University of Maryland bus stop. It's technically on 193, so I'm assuming that's probably state highway, but that sidewalk, which basically goes over the overpass, which goes over the metro line, is completely blocked. So usually you have, like 20 people standing out on that bus stop, and right now they don't have any place to stand. And I'm wondering who we can also talk to about that sidewalk, because I was driving down that way and people are now just walking in the road on 193 because the sidewalk is completely blocked. And I'm just worried that someone, like when it's dark, you really can't see people and they're just walking in the road. So I don't know if that's state highway. I don't know if that's Berwyn Heights. I don't know. And so my ask is, if Public Works is doing Greenbelt Station Parkway, can they just literally make that turn to at least clear out the bus stop? But then, if there's somebody that we can talk to about Greenbelt Station or Greenbelt Road and that sidewalk, I just don't know who that would be to reach out to.
With the 193, we blame State Highway, and State Highway says it's our responsibility for the sidewalk. So that's a constant push and pull situation with State Highway Administration. Technically, it's a State Highway responsibility. But there's dispute on the sidewalks. There is, and I know that I believe last legislative cycle or the prior cycle, the delegates were trying to clear up the language on who's going to be responsible for sidewalks on state highways. But I've noted the bus stop at 193 and the Greenbelt Station Parkway, so I'll discuss it with the team. We have done things on the sidewalks on 193 when there's a threat to pedestrians. For example, there's a reoccurring water leak on 193 in front of the American Legion, and so we salt that area regularly because the water freezes over and or folks need a safe passage through the sidewalk. So I'll see this as an extension of some of that existing work that we do. So thank you.
If you could also take a look at the bus stops there at Greenway Center on both sides. It's a major transfer point for people, and they're completely snowed in. But thank you for all the work that you've been doing over the past few days. And to the Public Works folks, I went down there, I guess, on Tuesday briefly and saw a few of them, and they are working their hearts out. It's really, really difficult going. So council is very, very appreciative of all their efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And they were hopeful to be able to come at. We had initially scheduled the city manager cordial update for Monday, February 2nd, and they were excited to come and present all their different programs. But given that they've worked so much on this storm and they need to prep for a potential storm on the weekend, I proposed in the meeting schedule that we move that presentation to February 11th. All that to say is that you will soon get to see the Public Works come to present to council, and I think they're excited to see you as well.
Thank you. Council member.
Sure.
Just speak into it.
Hello? Is it working? Okay, it's working now. So a couple of things. The first is on the storm, I just thought the social media that you guys did was really great. And I had folks who were prior residents of Greenbelt and friends of mine who messaged me and said when they lived here, they felt like they didn't have anything even close to the kind of communications the city is putting out now. So, kudos to you and your team for, really, using several different channels, text, email, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, it was really great to see you sort of sharing things out in multiple ways to reach as many people as possible. And also to keep reminding people as you did that to sign up for the alerts. So hopefully you got more people signed up for the alert system. I think it was on, I don't know if it was on Monday or Tuesday, but I did sort of an update video of what was going on in the city, like the status of all of our, just the status of our openings, of our facilities, of plowing, like, because people were, wondering what was going on and what the plan was. I think it was Tuesday. And I called Mr. Salmeron to make sure I had all the right information. But I think it would be really, and many people, thousands of people watched the video. It was really well received. But I think it would be great, if you had the capacity, Mr. Salmeron, if you would give that update, because you have that information. You're actually on the ground. Like, I was sort of just giving this information secondhand. But, you're the one who's actually in the weeds of it. Not that I minded doing it, but again, you're sort of the one who's overseeing this whole, everything that's going on. So I feel like you would be the best person to deliver those messages. Is of course, if you feel like that's within your capacity. I also understand that you're extremely busy. So that's the first thing that I wanted to bring up.
Thank you, Councilmember Pompey, and thank you for amplifying our message, because one of the things my wife actually mentioned, we saw that your reel, your story, and you had grouped all of these notices together, and then your video. So we appreciate you amplifying our message and getting out to all the different networks that you have. With the video messaging, we have capability, and James has purchased newer portable equipment. We have, I don't know what the camera is, but it's a really nice camera. Oh, I have the camera that was used for creating council meetings. So we have new cameras and microphones that would allow us to do recordings on the field much easier. From a practice perspective, it's been the city's custom that our communication goes through the website channel and the social media channels. That's the city channel, and a lot of the public interviews public statements are made by the manager. Sorry, by the mayor or council as a whole. I think that there are times where things are more time sensitive and require that flexibility, and if council is amenable to it, I think that we can get to residents much quicker by adapting that more time sensitive, more responsive approach by creating video, because you're right, I was on the truck. So I'm on the road. I'm sending James, like the video that we sent of Greenbelt Station. That was a quick video I took following one of the guys in the truck. So yes, there are things that we can get out quicker, but being sensitive to the PR piece and not doing something, in an effort to not create something new or overstep, as the speaker, the representative for all of the government. We're mindful of keeping things on the city's website and the city social media channel. But I think there are some residents that would appreciate more timely response, and I can do it out on the field.
That would be great. I mean, because I think people like video. I mean, people interact well with video. So, and I think, seeing a lot of other municipalities, like I saw, like there's city managers and administrators out there, the public works directors out there doing videos, the police doing videos. And I was like, this is so great because it's just sort of adds another layer of, another way for people to be connected and feel connected. So I think that would be great personally. That's my opinion. And then the second thing was that, we have our new county council members being sworn in next week, and you mentioned that you'd be able to go to the swearing in. So I think it would be great if we could, as a council, send him a congratulatory letter and invite him to a council meeting. And then it would be great also to just encourage him, if you meet his chief of staff, I don't know who that is or who that will be, but hopefully they'll be at his swearing in next week, to just ask them if they would consider organizing a meet and greet here in the city for our residents. I know that Councilmember Watson did that after her election. She did a meet and greet here in the city, and I know people are interested and excited to meet our new council representative. So, who is Tim Adams, the mayor of Bowie, or former mayor of Bowie, I guess at this point, because he resigned last week. For those who didn't know.
Okay, anything else? Yeah. Robert, do you have something to add?
Later, still waiting? Okay. I just want to thank the city for opening up the buildings as warming stations. That's life, this whole week. It's gonna be brutal for those people who are really the unhoused people. Thinking that yesterday was Count the Point. I don't know if you're aware of that. Count the Point is when going to the woods to count those people who are unhoused, so we know how to fund future social services for the individuals and find out what their needs are. So thank you for opening up the buildings, and thank the police for helping those people out, and just think about those people as you're drinking your hot cocoa.
Thank you. We did check the encampments as well, to make sure that folks were out of the cold. I appreciated this weather event. The county offered up hotels and other accommodations for the ad house, so the county did something exceptional in that regard.
And I think those the hotels and the warming stations in the county are still available. There's one hotel over in Beltsville, I think, that was listed on the county site. So, just so many things to talk about. We've got a few more items on the agenda, so let's get to it. Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
I Googled it, but I saw the city shared WSSC's advisory on essential water use only, and they extended it again as of 6:10 today. I don't know if you have any inside information when it's safe for me to use the washing machine again.
Being safe is the water is safe. It's just a matter of conserving water in the system. with the temperatures there, we were closely monitoring water leaks and breaks, and on Monday we were happy that we didn't have any, but then the leaks started springing up in different places, and WSIC has done a great job at keeping us informed of the main breaks and water leaks. And what happens with the system is we're losing water volume in the system, and so that is the threat to all the community. So we just have to be mindful, and I kept my shower short this morning and last night. So, but we did get the notice out. The water pressure, I haven't noticed a dip in pressure, and I haven't been informed of a loss of pressure in the city. I think we're primarily talking about the volume that's in the system with the water leaks. We're just losing a lot of volume of water. Mm-hmm.
And I'll also just say that I got great feedback about the ELSA post as well from friends who don't normally engage with the city communications. So I just want to say for the record, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation, but everyone deserves the presumption of innocence before they get their day in court.
Before she gets put on ice. Let's get back to the agenda, and the next item is, in fact, that resolution to endorse the COG DMV Moves funding proposal. It's for first reading. So we've received the presentation. We've looked at the background information. In the packet also, I believe there was a copy of the resolution that was passed by COG, the COG board, and WMATA jointly to endorse the proposal. So if a council member would like to introduce this for first reading, and heck, we could even suspend the rules and adopt it for second reading if someone wanted to make that proposal. Would anyone like to make a motion, please?
I'm happy to. I'm not sure that it's so urgent that we need to suspend the rules, although so I would like to move for a first reading a resolution supporting the endorsement of the DMV Moves plan and funding proposal.
Okay, so that's first reading, and that should come up. I don't see any reason why that couldn't come up at the next meeting. So next, section 4, other business. We're going to jump to a question, authorization for the city manager to approve the stop sign contract. Staff recommendation is that we authorize the city manager enter into a contract with Obvio Incorporated for the operation of the Greenbelt's automated stop sign enforcement program. On November 19th, 2025, the city issued a request for proposals for this automated stop sign enforcement system. I guess there are 5 qualified proposals before the closing date, and staff conducted an evaluation and recommends Obvio as the vendor best suited to help us improve traffic safety, reduce dangerous violations, and protect our residents. Mr. Samarone, would you like to say anything about this, or could I have a motion to put a motion on the table so we can discuss this resolution, please? Go ahead.
I move that the city council authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Obvio Inc. for the operation of Greenbelt's automated stop sign enforcement program.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pope. City Manager Summerall, would you like to say anything about
Yes,
this?
and just provide some context, and I have Police Chief Bowers on Zoom to provide the details. So the overall, it was council's desire to explore the stop sign enforcement program as authorized by state and the county. We've run series of pilots. Just as for background, we ran a pilot with no intervention. That means without the flashing stop sign. So we ran a pilot. We ran the data of multiple sites in the city. We presented that information to council at a work session, and you got to see actual footage of vehicles running stop signs, and other violations of varying degrees. Then we did the intervention work at the stop signs, where we put the flashing stop signs, and we wanted to monitor whether that had an effect on stop signs compliance. And we saw that the flashing stop signs did improve compliance for motorists stopping at stop signs. But it's not a 100% solution. And I think council was very mindful of us wanting, of asking the staff to explore all the different road interventions before we went to the stop sign camera enforcement, which we have done. I think we've done a good job in installing those flashing lights and clearing the visibility to the approaching stop signs. And so that's the background of where we are. Now we have approval to do the stop sign. Many municipalities in the county have implemented their programs, and many are being very successful. And so this is just sort of where we are on the timeline. We've put out an RFP, primarily because at the time that we were considering this program, initially there was only one vendor. And as more municipalities started exploring stop sign enforcement, there were additional vendors that came into the marketplace. And so at the time that we were negotiating with a vendor, there were at least 3 vendors in the space. And so we felt that we were obligated to give an opportunity to the new entrants in the marketplace to conduct an RFP and read through those proposals. And so we did. And we ended up with selecting the initial provider of the program. I think the Avio, given that they were early entrants in the marketplace, they really have improved both the technology and the price structure and enforcement structure. And that's why you'll see an Avio's name again in this contract, because I think they really are doing a good job. Certainly from the RFP process, they were the best vendor. And I'll let Chief take over on the details. Chief, are you there?
Chief Bowers, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Can you, or would you say a couple of words just about the rationale for the program, and more specifically in approving this contract, what the timeline of when this would be rolling out?
So, kind of start back to the beginning. City manager pretty much summed up the process to this point. One of the things that we've seen in a number of locations is the non-compliance rate with the stop signs exceeding 80% in some cases. And so that really was a pedestrian safety, intersection safety concern, particularly at some of the ones around the school, or all of the schools, because these cameras are located solely inside of school zones. And so that was the driving force, was to increase that safety around those schools, particularly where we saw high levels of non-compliance. As city manager summed up, we started the process looking at different vendors. We did examine 5 proposals that came to us. Each one of them had some strengths and weaknesses, but ultimately we selected to go with Avio. They offered, I think, the best bang for our buck in terms of price comparison, as well as technology, movability, and then the other thing too that we thought was important was the fact that they've got other contracts within the county and have their product tested in the court system. And so we really felt that was important to make sure that the product we selected was proven to work within Prince George's County and in the court system. The contract itself is pretty straightforward, as described in the memorandum. We, at this point in terms of timeline, this is really our last phase. As you recall, you've already approved all of the ordinances to authorize the program. The only step that was required after your approval was to get county council approval, which was completed back in October. So at this point, once the contract is signed, we'll return it to the company and we will get into kind of early construction phase. We're looking at about 90 days until the cameras are up and operational. And then there'll be a warning period that goes after that. And then they'll go live 30 days after the warning period starts.
So it sounds as though the plan, this would be live and issuing citations, sounds like June or July?
In about 120 days. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. You know, we were talking about this at the recent Four Cities meeting, and Berwyn Heights has a system in place. I don't know if it's Avio, but they were saying that the compliance, I believe they have a camera there by the recreation center and school over on Pontiac. They're saying that the compliance is very good. But they also said something about trying to work with the vendor for citations to stratify the enforcement somehow, asking the vendor to focus in on level 2 and 3 violations as opposed to level 1. I'm not sure exactly what they were talking about. How is that something that you are looking at?
So one of the things that we're looking at is a mechanism by which you can quantify. I hate to put it this way, but you can quantify the severity of it by using a speed calculation. How fast did the vehicle go through the stop sign? And so that's one of the things we'll be looking at as we go to kind of testing production. Where is the medium? Is it 5 miles an hour? We've done some testing at 8 miles an hour, and we still see a fairly high non-compliance rate, even setting the speed at 8 miles an hour at the stop sign. So we'll be working to make sure as we go through testing that we find that medium point where we're making sure we're enforcing the stop sign appropriately, but not something where somebody's at 1 or 2 miles an hour. Really finding the happy spot where enforcement is appropriate.
I don't know if I'd call that a happy spot, but I appreciate what you're saying. I think it's important. So when someone gets one of these citations, if they want to dispute it or appeal it, they have to actually get a court date, right, and go down to
Yes, sir, that would be
district court.
correct. Any citations, much like any other automated enforcement program, whether it be red light or speed, any person who is issued a citation is entitled to appear in court.
Okay, Council Member Pumpy.
Thank you. I saw in your memo that the contract will be $1,000 per camera per site a month, and $850 per violation processed. And I
Yes.
think the contract said up to 7 cameras. Is that right? Up to
So
7
we'll have 7 sites.
sites. Oh, okay. 4 cameras, but
4
7
cameras
sites.
that can be rotated amongst the
Got
7
it.
sites.
And did you guys do any kind of sort of like cost analysis of like how close this program will be to cost neutral? Do you expect that to happen? Or, and did Abio sort of give you any kind of like trending data? Like I know with our red light cameras or speed cameras, generally like the fines start out high, but they go lower as the cameras become more effective. And I assume we would expect the same of these stop sign cameras. So
I would expect a substantial decline, particularly at locations that don't see outside traffic. What I mean, if it's a camera located in an area that only generally sees residential traffic, the residents will quickly become aware of it and change their driving behavior, which is the intended purpose. Those sites that see more transient traffic, they'll probably continue with a higher volume, but I suspect that we would see pretty quickly a 50 or 60% decrease from the initial numbers that we saw. So I do think they will come down. One of the benefits of the contract with Abio is that it is cost neutral.
Okay.
If the cameras are not generating revenue, then there is nothing for us to pay.
that's great.
So they will pay for themselves, and if they don't, then that's something we work out with Abio.
Okay, and then I know that these are going up in the school zones that we as a city designated as school zones. So but my question is, will the cameras be operational year round or only during the school year?
So unlike the speed camera program, these are operational year round. The speed camera inside the school zone is only during school hours, and the red light is 24/7, or the stop sign is 24/7, sorry.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. This has been, I know this has been a long process. You've been working on this for a long time. So I just want to say I really appreciate all the efforts that you have put into both finding the contracts and all the ordinances we had to pass. And I'm looking forward to this, to seeing the cameras actually working soon. So thanks so much.
Yes, ma'am.
I would add on the spikes of violation. There are some sites that, because they're going to be new, that we're going to see a high level of infractions. I don't expect Southway and Rich to have a high level because we've had a camera there for a really long time. Now we're not issuing fines. So, but I hope that people have gotten into the habit of stopping there because there's a huge camera there. You can't miss it.
Yeah, and can you just remind me, is it like the process, like the first, you get a warning first, correct? And
Yes.
then are these escalating fines? I don't think that they are, right? They're just a flat $40 fee.
Yes, ma'am. The first 30 days, warnings are issued.
Okay.
After the warning period ends, after 30 days, any person that goes through it would get a citation, and the fee is preset at $40. It's not an escalation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Fritz. Councilmember McKinney.
Um, Thank you, Chief, for the information. I know that the city often puts information like this on the city's website. Are you planning any other communication out to residents about this once and if it is approved? Specifically around the violations and the escalation and things like that. So what's the communication plan?
So we will do a media blitz, so to speak, across the city through the different channels that we have, including the news review, our Facebook pages, any city media outlets that we have. We'll put something out. We can even use. We have contacts with DC News Now and some other local stations to get some stories out that way. But I think focusing on local news, whether it be the news review or through our social media platforms, we'll be able to get that information out. The other thing that will happen is there will be signs that go up that detail, much like with the red light and the speed, where we put up the signs that say automated enforcement in progress. Those cautionary signs will go up in those areas as well.
Councilmember Fritz.
Great, thank you. This looks great, and I just have a few questions. It says that here that I believe that the maintenance is proprietary for Avio. If we had any issues with that, I know other jurisdictions, have varying degrees of satisfaction with the servicing that they're getting on their equipment, and sometimes it leads to issues or delays.
The maintenance per the contract is to be done by Avio. One of the things that we negotiated in this contract, one is the time frame. So this is a 1-year extendable contract. That's just generally our administrative management philosophy, that we don't want to bind ourselves or counsel for an extended contract period. There's also a cost with cancellation. So, and that's spelled out in the contract. We've also negotiated that down and the time period that. So should we become, I think, getting to your question, there were two issues or two elements to your question. One is who's doing the maintenance and how responsive they may be.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're unhappy, what's going to be the recourse for us? Well, this is a 1-year contract. We're not afraid of walking away from a contract.
That helps with my second question. It says in Section 14 that we waive the use of a jury trial if there's dissatisfaction with the contract. Obviously, if it's a 1-year contract, probably something we're not going to take to a jury trial.
Correct.
So, but is that standard across most of our contracts that we waive jury trial, or is it really vary by the vendor?
It varies by the vendor. Just not speaking about this particular vendor. There are a couple ways of getting out of a contract. Obviously, you've got performance standards laid out in the contract, and there's default language. And certainly, I think this vendor, with the rapid adoption of red light camera, this vendor is going to be. They're going to want to ensure that if we do have a termination of the agreements, that it's amicable and peaceful. I don't think they'll be interested in having drawn out litigation. One, because just the costs associated on their end and our end. So I don't expect the drawn out process if we need to terminate them. But I also don't expect that they're going to be difficult to work with. They have been very responsive to us. They coordinated various site testing and provided the data. So just drawing from experience, I think they've been easier to work with. Chief, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I would agree with you, the city manager, Lisa. I think so far to date with dealing with them, they've been very responsive. Anytime we've asked for something, they've been able to produce it for us pretty quickly. And I think we did safeguard ourselves by making sure the term of each year it's renewable, but it is 1 year, and that really does protect us. If there are performance issues, we can terminate the contract and pick another vendor.
And then I think the thorniest issue was probably something I've been reading around a lot. It's been going around on social media around kind of surveillance and just general concerns. Rumors spreading about Ring cameras, Flock, companies like that. So I did pull up the data and privacy and security statement, so my understanding is Avio stores the data on their servers and then it's given to us, but they do not transmit every license plate that is going by, and they say on their website that they don't retain it. They don't use facial recognition technology per their website. and we can only request violation data, and that will only be dispensed to cities. And so they do address that on their website and in the contract, but just so folks understand, cities like Austin have banned the use of license plate reader technology because of privacy concerns, and that's very different if you're scanning every license plate that comes by. But the way that this data is stored, it's my understanding is Avio will save it on their servers and then transfer over violations, and then the city will decide whether or not to pursue a violation. Correct.
That's correct. And the other two that's a state law that goes with this is the fact that under Maryland law, anything outside of the violation that we're processing, if somebody committed a crime and we thought they might have driven through that camera and we wanted to look for that, we would actually have to get a subpoena for those records. So that's not something that we can readily access at any point.
Well, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, so I guess some of this is a follow-up on what Councilmember Fritz was just saying, and this came up at the Four Cities last meeting last week. So who from our side will be reviewing it? Will it be a sworn officer, or will we have a civilian staff person trained to review and decide which violations to pursue?
So we will probably use a combination of. Right now, we have a sworn police officer who does the speed camera and a civilian that does red light. We'll probably start off with those two employees getting trained because this is not required to be done by a police officer. So we'd like to have more than one person capable of these. These two individuals are experienced with processing the violations at this point. And so we'll start there as our core folks doing the citation approval. Long term, though, I think we're going to have a civilian that would manage all three of the programs and approve citations.
And I think it's worth noting also from the Four Cities meeting last week, Berwyn Heights mentioned that they have seen a drop of 60% in the people running stop signs. So they're seeing some good results in terms of people not behaving there. Also, I think they noted that only 11% of violations are Berwyn Heights residents for them. So that will be interesting to see the comparisons. And I think it's also another thing that came up there, just sort of to let you know, Mr. Salmarone was there. I mean, College Park has theirs. They're working to get theirs. They're looking to start their tickets in late February. Berwyn Heights is already in place. Something like New Carrollton maybe doesn't have any yet. But there was a desire to share information among the Four Cities so that because a lot of our residents are traveling in between all of the Four Cities and other places. So just there's a way, I hopefully, your PIO folks there and ours are in touch with folks from the other 3 cities. So sharing information about our policies and what we're doing so that we can share the dissemination, since, it's not as if we live in a Greenbelt bubble as much as some people would like to. People do travel outside the city occasionally.
I have an easy tip for all of our residents.
Just stop at the stop sign? I know, but yes, one should always stop at all stop signs. Although I did get one of these. Going to a PGCMA meeting, I think, was it Comar Manor? Yeah, I've gotten one there. Made me much more conscious of stopping at stop signs, which is the point.
Or take the bus.
Take the bus. Yeah. I received one in Glen Arden, and I would really like to contest it because I came to almost a complete stop. No, seriously, but I'm not gonna. Well, the lights went on, the stop. So I'm glad to hear the chief say that with the enforcement, you're going to be working with the vendor to try and have a reasonable criteria for citations along with our neighboring jurisdictions. So thank you for the research. Thank you for the work that you've done on this. I'd like to go ahead and take a vote. But we have a question. Someone's yelling out from the other side of the room. Mr. Orleans?
Is this working? Apparently. Thank you. Thank you. Bill Orleans still. Apart from my inclination that all automated traffic enforcement is inappropriate, apart from that, it was announced at the Four Cities that there were 5 bidders, I think, and Avio was the winning bid. I'm curious to know who the other four are, if that's not privileged information. But more to the point, I did a quick skim of the contract. Did not see reference to their recognition of what I thought had become standard, their recognition that they must pay a living wage to their employees. I did see a reference to the fact that it's known to the city that they will be using subcontractors. And if that's the case, then do their subcontractors know that they must adhere to the city's living wage policy? That's one question.
Mr. Summerall?
I forgot my other question.
All right,
Maybe
good.
it'll come to me. I'll stay
Good
here.
enough. Thank
All right, on the first one, this contract, unlike a lot of our other contracts where they're fixed rate contracts, the only fixed fee in here is $1,000 per station. The resolution as approved by council is for contracts that exceed $50,000, must pay a livable wage. The resolution also, with that council adopted, predates the state's Living Wage Act. So while I do not have a specific certification for this contract, there is no fixed cost rate for the contract. I will connect with chief and the vendor to ensure that they are paying any subcontractors involved a living wage.
Well, that's good to know, but presumably a contract that's done on a basis of piecemeal, you can extrapolate the total value of the contract, and that would exceed $50,000. And I frankly don't remember that our contracts have to exceed $50,000 in costs to require that the vendors adhere to the city's living wage policy. But in the aggregate, they're going to make much more than $50,000.
When on the projections that the chief evaluated, I don't have the numbers in front of me, chief, but I think that this came out to 54 or 55,000 with the expected violations.
Yes, sir, that sounds about right.
Well, that would suggest that they should adhere to the city's living wage policy. I've forgotten my other question.
Yes, and I think one of the things to be mindful in this one that we're talking about the cost is primarily a subscription model. It's technology. This is more akin to a technology subscription product than it is a labor contract. There is someone else isn't doing work on this project. It's a camera that's capturing photos, and we're paying for the storage and the transmission of that footage for us to make a determination. So the only labor contract that will be involved, and it actually comes at a cost, is the installation, the initial installation, and any relocation of any cameras. But that's spelled out in the contract that comes at an additional fee.
I imagine they have to be calibrated on a regular basis as well, above and beyond. Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. As part of your education program, I would strongly suggest that you also bring up the fact that if people do stop at the stop sign, it's not a passive-aggressive act, because very often I'll stop at the stop sign and the car behind me will honk, as if to say, there's no one there, just go. So I think it's important to educate people also that if there's a car in front of you that stops at the stop sign, it's because they're not passive-aggressive, they're just, obeying law. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Fritz.
Just say that that person, if they honk and then run through the stop sign, they'll get a ticket. So their behavior will probably change in the long run.
Very good. Let's go ahead and put this to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, measure carries. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for briefing us on the implementation and some
Thank you, Council.
specifics. Thank you. Appreciate it so much. So item number 12 is a discussion of legislative bills to support at the state level. We will be, the session has started. So in the packet, there's a week 1 legislative summary and other summaries from Carrington and Associates, our Annapolis lobbyist contractor. It outlines several bills with potential implementation for Greenbelt, ranging from automated enforcement reciprocal agreements and climate adaptation funding. to transportation impact assessments, public safety protections. So tonight we're going to try and talk a little bit about the process, and we're going to also kind of cover some of the bills that have been suggested or we're currently following collectively with our contractors and with council and other resources. So I want to note to council that with the change in the timing of our work session on Monday, we're actually shifting the legislative discussion that was going to happen on the 11th, I believe, to Monday. So that's going to be a work session. We'll have quite a bit more time to delve into this topic on Monday. So I'd like to suggest that we try and just talk about how this is going to work in terms of how we are working with our contractor and with staff to move this process forward. We also received some information from MML, the Maryland Municipal League, from former mayor and longtime MML Legislative Committee member Jay Davis, and that information came in at about 5 o'clock or something today.
I didn't go through all of it, but I did pass along our appreciation for getting it.
Oh, definitely. She's actually attending the meetings, which is fantastic.
She is also online, so she
Yeah. So it's
speak
great
up
for
if
us.
she.
It's great for us to have her there. But
Yeah,
anyway.
definitely. So, just in terms of the process, Councilmember Pompey, do you want to speak a little bit about how we're tracking these bills, working with the contractors?
Sure. So we're having a weekly meeting every Friday with both our state and county council contractors. The Daryl, our state level contractor is doing hopefully what's going to be a weekly list of bills that, well, it's right here, of bills that now these aren't necessarily directly impacting Greenbelt, but they are something that has some kind of municipal component to them. So he'll be updating this weekly and also updating where it is in the process. Is it in its first reading? Is it passed out of its committee? Is it scheduled for a vote? Like, he'll update this weekly. What we do sort of need to have this a little better organized so that it's the bills that are a priority for us are sort of at the top, because I think there are like 50 or something bills on here right now. We don't weigh in on 50 bills. We're pretty selective about what bills we actually send letters on.
And we should be. We should be.
Yeah.
We should kind of focus in the ones that are that are sending a letter or testifying is going to be most impactful.
Yeah.
And, in coordinating with
Absolutely.
MML and our sister jurisdictions, because that is really what can influence the process. And while we have strong feelings about some of the bills, if they're covered, adequately, then we don't necessarily have to write a letter to each and every one.
That's right, but I do think it will be great. So we'll talk to Daryl about maybe trying to organize this in a way that's a little easier for council to consume and prioritize, because maybe you don't want to read about 50 bills. But I think if you can go through it in sort of anything, not right in this moment, but before we have our legislative discussion, just if you have questions about anything, if something seems to really stick out to you personally, you should let us know about that. But we will be discussing with Daryl and Mr. Ricardo. Hopefully Daryl will be bringing things to us that are really things that are urgent for us to act on. That's what we've asked him to do. So that way, on Friday, we will know if we need to say, write a letter or testify the following week, because letters have to be submitted 48 hours in advance of a hearing, as does your testimony. I don't know if your testimony has to be submitted, but you have to sign up to testify.
Yes, you do.
So the idea of meeting on Friday is so that we're ready for the next week if we need to move.
Yeah, and at this stage in the process, it's also important, and this is what Mr. Carrington and others will be giving us a good sense of, is whether or not these bills are actually going to move out of committee, because a lot of bills are proposed. I don't know, you're right, I don't know, a couple
Thousands
thousand.
of bills. I mean, and so
But a lot of them have no legs,
Right.
because there's not enough support to get them out of committee. So,
just speaking on that, if I might briefly about bills moving quickly. the 287, the ban on 287Gs, which is mentioned in the memo, that has already passed both the state and both the Senate and House Judiciary Committees and is scheduled for an emergency vote. So that's happening. I think the vote is for maybe tomorrow. So that's moving really, really fast. So we didn't submit a letter on that because it moves so quickly, but I think if you want to email your, senators about it, that's great. But again, this is, I think Delegate Williams was the lead sponsor in the House. I think she submitted it on Tuesday. So this is like not the normal pace at which bills move through our legislature, but this one moved really, really quickly. So we did not have time to do any kind of weighing in on it. But yeah, so just for residents, so they're aware that this will hopefully be voted on, I think, tomorrow. So.
And we actually did send a letter of support for a bill that Senator Washington put forward, SB 0010, and that had to do with the establishment of a time frame for response from SHA on speed camera zones. I believe that's was the gist of the bill. Also, we've been looking closely at Senate Bill 245, which is the Immigration Enforcement Agreements. There's also a bill, SB 1, has to do with face covers on ICE employees or public safety employees. So a lot of bills out there, but this year we're trying, I'll be working with Jenny to and staff and our contractors to kind of consolidate these so that we can be a little bit more proactive and strategic in how we try and impact the legislative process. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I think from a process standpoint, I think something, and I appreciated sort of the recommendations on the column in there, but I think I think it may be helpful if we are able to sort of broadly speaking, as a council vote on support for things, whether we know whether we're going to do a letter or not, because I think one of the problems with these things coming up so quickly is that we don't necessarily have the ability we don't necessarily have a meeting where we can take a position. So I think that's something, and I think that may be part of the prioritization, but and maybe we can talk about this more on Monday and really come up with a list and like ones that, for example, that we know we're all in agreement of supporting. We may not need to write a letter or may need to have somebody testifying, but I think it would be good practice for us to be able to vote and say, hey, yeah, we're in support of this, and then let sort of the consultants and our I guess we decided not to call them subcommittees, but we haven't voted on the standing rules yet, but our working groups, our legislative working group, so that they know they have council support on these topics. This is in general our position on this, and then when the bill comes up, we have that on the record, I guess is my point, is that I would like to see us try to do that. And maybe even if we can talk about it some on Monday, then maybe we can even have sort of a general list of those to vote on the 9th, so that we have that again on the record. And then other things that may come up in between, that's fine, but that allows a little bit more movement in between meetings. The only other one that I would note, that I did try to look through some of these, and I think some of the ones that I was interested in tracking or paying attention to are already listed, but one that I did not see listed that came up at the Green Aces meeting last night, and I know Mr. Carrington is already tracking because we did vote to support it last year, but the bottle deposit bill. And that's not on the listing, but I don't know if, and I don't know that those hearings are scheduled yet, but I guess maybe that's something that Green Aces proactively brought up and said last night, and I said I would follow up on that. So I don't know if that's something we could vote to support again, just reaffirm our support for that tonight so that when that hearing comes up.
I think in Jay Davis's watching the MML Legislative Committee, she noted that that's SB 342.
Yeah, I didn't have the number.
They actually voted to support that at a statewide level. So that's
actually,
encouraging.
Can I make a quick motion? I would like to vote to reaffirm our support for SB 342, the bottle deposit bill.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Let's see. Jay Davis, would you like to just say a couple of words about your impressions of the Legislative Committee this year? You've been to 2 meetings. Jay Davis, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, welcome. How are things back in Annapolis in the new headquarters building? Had you been there before?
No, I attend by Zoom. In fact, all the committee meetings are Zoom, except for the first one, which I did not attend.
Yeah, 'cause
That was
I don't think they have
earlier in the year.
I don't think they have a boardroom big enough to hold everyone right now.
Well, they have quite a large legislative committee.
Yes.
So yeah, it would be difficult, and especially with the weather the way it's been, and then some folks are way in Western Maryland and Eastern Maryland, so they do it by Zoom. And they now have a policy where you have to keep your camera on and you have to vote on every vote, and they keep track of that so that you actually have people participating. Um, the number of bills that they look at, you had a list of week number one, and you had about 50 bills. They look at about 30 to 50 bills each meeting. So that's why some of the positions that I gave you, they're way ahead of even what Daryl gave you, Mr. Carrington. And I'll continue to attend the meetings, and as long as it's useful for you, I will continue to send memos.
We definitely appreciate that. Of course, I want to note that Mr. Carrington is on the ball, so he's actually sent 3 reports to us. This is week 3, so I'm looking forward to consolidating his information with what we're getting from Jay Davis. And, it's not just about sending letters or testifying. Mr. Carrington last year stressed to us the importance of trying to get FaceTime with some of the committee chairs and just getting out there, and that's something that I've done in the past, and I think we need to continue. He actually wanted us to have a Greenbelt Day or something out in Annapolis, where we would set up some visits, and when we talk to him a little bit more, perhaps we can get that on the table again, because I think it's impactful.
I would appreciate it if you would send me the week number 2 and week number 3. I had asked for that, but I had not gotten it. So it would be helpful to me, because that way I can see what he's proposing and what MML is proposing, and that would help.
I think that week number 3 is hot off the press. So if there, and I'm looking forward to a more in-depth, less rushed conversation on Monday. We've got a comment. Council members, any other comments about? Yes, Councilmember Fritz.
Bill that I had seen, it hasn't been introduced yet, but I think it has implications for us as well, even though it doesn't directly impact local law enforcement. Delegate Adrian Boafo is introducing a legislation that would bar the state of Maryland from hiring for state agencies, employees of ICE, for law enforcement operations if they worked for ICE after January 20th of last year. So if something like that were to pass at the state level, I think it would put the question to local municipalities in a pretty sharp way. Are you going to follow suit in those kinds of prohibitions?
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other comments from the council? We can go to Mr. Orleans.
I had thought I heard Councilmember Pompey say that she was involved in what effectively would be a subcommittee of council meeting weekly with Daryl Carrington and whomever is the county level contractor. But I was uncertain, and then later on I heard Councilmember Weaver suggest that indeed council has not passed on the question of establishing subcommittees, shall call it effectively a working group. I would be opposed at any point council considers doing this, but if it's not done this yet, I'm especially opposed that information that should be conveyed to the whole of council and therefore to the whole of the city is being done effectively in closed sessions with 1 or 2 or 3 maybe council members involved. I don't know if this is the only, let's call it a working group that is existing as of now, but this is not the way effective, appropriate local governance should occur. As council is considering anything, it should be done in public session so that the whole of the city knows what council is considering.
Well, thank you very much. Are there any other comments? This idea of a working group, we are about to update our council rules, and I don't know if I would call it a working group, but it's more so trying to just organize the information that's coming in so that the body as a whole can look at it coherently. For all of council to sit down and try and figure out putting 2 or 3 spreadsheets together, it's more efficient and effective to kind of have somebody try and aggregate the information. That would be the purpose of a meeting. Yeah, Councilmember Fritz.
Building off of what that concern, but also the point raised by Ms. Davis, I think it might be helpful if all these were stored in maybe a central place on the website. If we're getting these reports and we're paying for these reports, if residents are curious, it might be useful just to have a place where they can check in what we're advocating for during the legislative session, and it could be a reference for legislators as well.
Yeah, I think what we're working towards is to have this consolidated list, which we could probably find a place on the website to put, particularly with when council makes a decision how to approach a particular priority. That's how we did it last year.
So we do, the list evolves. But in terms of these reports being available, they are available on our website in every packet that we include. So that they will continue to be available, and anything that we send to council, what I can make sure to do is make sure that even all the communications, for example, that Daryl sends communications about one particular bill that might not be in the consolidated list, that we can include those in the council packets that get published. But I would say that anything that goes before council, it should remain or stay in the council communication and packets.
We have to be mindful with contractors. Sometimes there's information that the contractor would consider proprietary, so we have to figure out how to broach that if that occasion comes up. So let's go ahead and move on to the item number 13, if it's council's will, and that is discussion and acceptance of the council retreat report on December the 10th and 15th, 2025, facilitated by Tom Reynolds, who is the Director of Leadership Development at the Maryland Municipal League. 2 retreats were held. The retreat was an invaluable opportunity for council to step back, reflect on our shared priorities, and update our 2-year planning framework with clear goals across public safety, youth engagement, economic development, transportation, environment, infrastructure, and communications. I think the report does a pretty good job of capturing our discussions, our hopes and aspirations, and sort of a roadmap to the strategic direction that we're trying to set for the next 2 years, 18 to 24 months. And I believe that it's a good start, a strong foundation for our upcoming strategic planning process, budget deliberations, and even feeding into a broader community visioning process at some point. So just to kind of make this a formality, staff is recommending that we vote to formally accept the report tonight. But I look forward to hearing from each of you on how we can kind of move these goals into actionable steps and measurable outcomes for our community. Mayor Pro Tem.
Can the spelling of my name please be fixed?
Oh, of course. I'm sorry. I missed
It has I instead of E on Kristen.
I'm sorry. I will have that fixed. Does that require a motion?
Hopefully not. I don't know that one requires a motion, but yes, just
We need to withdraw the report. Councilmember Fritz, do you want to say? I thought it was a good process. I actually look forward to continuing the discussion with greater specificity on our framework or 2-year plan. It sort of laid the groundwork so that we're in a position. It's always just a real pull between doing things like this and having the time to do everything that we would like to do. Councilmember Pompey or McKinney or...
I was just going to move that we accept the report amended to correct Mayor Pro Tem's name.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Oh, okay, I'll second it.
I was going to say, you're going to have to talk to my parents about the spelling of my name, so.
Councilmember McKinney.
Yeah, we seconded it, right? So yes, I appreciate the report. Did we get a second? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I think the information provided in the report is great. I would like for us to think about how we will take action steps against it. So the last time we had our council retreat, we took this and we actually put it into the planning framework, which then guided Mr. Salmarone as he went into budget. And so we are approaching that time frame again. And I guess my question is back to you, Mr. Salmarone. Would it be helpful to have that type of condensed and, I guess, affirmed document from council that you will use in your budget preparation process?
Yes, I welcome that, particularly the work that you did, Ms. McKinney, on framing objectives and action items, all rolling up into the focus areas. James puts the budget book together, so that made it easier for us to drop in that language and then make it flow through the budget document. So we need to take this report and turn it into an actionable document or something that we can put in our budget book. So yeah, we do need that. We welcome that. One of the things that we're working on this year is creating greater synergy between our strategic objectives for staff and council. If you recall, one of the special recognitions that we received from GFOA and for the current budget year is that we were highlighted for our strategic objectives. So we want to create greater synergy. And this is building on what we've been talking about for almost the entirety of the time that I've been here, is that we want to get to a strategic plan for the city. And we're getting closer and closer to developing that strategic plan.
And as we have those discussions and move closer to the plan, at some point we need to kind of open it up so the residents also can kind of respond and include. We're all in this together. So in doing this without trying to periodically engage the general public in a broader conversation, I just think it's an important thing to do. So that's why we've talked about it on council for a few years since the last time we did a community-wide visioning. Mr. Hartman was about 8 years ago, 10 years ago. It's been a little while. That was helpful. That's how we came up with the initial framework that we started using. Good public engagement.
And I welcome being able to do that. We do need to set aside the budget to hire a consultant and put together a listening sessions, stakeholder assessment, and hear from our residents. So we could do that. We had hoped last year, if you recall, Mr. Mayor, that we were hoping to get to update our sector plans with the assistance of Park and Planning. And Miss Lakeisha Hall was very supportive, and she was working with us on that. She's no longer at the office. So that's an opportunity that we may not have. Also, that Park and Planning as an entity under new leadership, they've I wouldn't say they've shifted their focus. Obviously, they have clear priorities that they want to execute, and the sector plan updates were not part of the conversations we had with them recently. So,
is that right? I mean, we really need to update that sector plan.
Yes, and perhaps what we need to do is organize advocacy and participation in the Park and Planning's sector plan review. They announced a series of meetings where they want to hear from the residents on the strategic plans for the county and the sector plans. I will look that up on their website, but they were actively marketing that, and I think that maybe we go as representatives of the government and encourage residents to go and provide feedback to all the sector plans.
Right.
But that's separate from us doing our own community visioning work, and that's what what the work that we were going to do with Ms. Hall was. We're going to look at our Greenway Center sector plan and provide that feedback, because obviously an area of work that we need to do. All of those planning documents need to be updated, and they're aware of that.
Really need to do that. But I just want to say that I thought that Mr. Reynolds did an excellent job of facilitating these sessions, and I strongly feel that if we can continue to find ways to use him or use his expertise, I think it's a good way to go. So if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and vote on the motion that's on the floor to accept this strategic, this council retreat report. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you so much. Hey, that's going to bring us to some calendar-related items. And we've got a couple of things here. They are related to meetings. I'm just, I've got this paper copy of the agenda, which is different than what's on the website. So there's a few things. There's Mayor Pro Tem, you've put forward a budget work session schedule proposal, and I'd like to move to accept that as a framework. I think I'm not comfortable with the commitments to just in terms of getting the information, submitting it for the packet a week and a half ahead of time. Aspirationally, I'd like to do that, but sometimes just having lived on council and also, with our residents having an opportunity to weigh in on things, I think that it's a goal, but I'm not comfortable committing to having all of council submit their written questions a week ahead of time. But as a framework, I'm comfortable with that. The other thing is, I think with the contribution, the recognition, the contribution group sessions spread into two sessions with a meeting in between. I wish there was some way we could shift that around. I think it's a great framework, and I'm comfortable with most of it, but that part I'm not. So I would maybe move to adopt it as a framework, but still allowing some flexibility as we kind of tweak it and go forward. Is there a second? I'm not hearing any seconds.
Well, can we, I'm not sure when we approve meetings, we always can go back and change them later if there's a reason to. So I'm not sure, this is a proposal for the meetings, and I would note that the recognition group separated the way they were. That was the proposal from staff. That was part of the only changes. So the changes that I made based on what we had previously talked about with the meetings was to not have any meetings during the school district spring break. And so, because we had originally said, so the budget introduction is the 23rd, and then talk about the legislative priorities update. That's right. So I believe the 23rd is crossover. So the thought was that that's a good time to do a legislative update. And then my thinking was partially, I think it's a good idea to not have work meetings during spring break so that any of our staff that may have children in the schools or our council members who have children in the schools could take that as a week of vacation with their students. I think that's a very appropriate thing to do. The other advantage of that is that gives, a good chunk of time for all of council to be able to read the budget and prepare their questions well ahead of time. So I have to say, I don't really understand your unwillingness to commit to getting the questions in ahead of time, because that allows, because that,
I didn't say that. I said
you said you were unwilling
codifying
to commit.
it into a deadline to get them in a week ahead of time to get in the packet. Reality check, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, okay, but the whole point is we've got about 2 weeks here now between when the budget, or a little bit more than that, when the budget is presented to us, plenty of time to prepare our questions ahead of time. And I think it's more transparent and better for staff if we are able to get, now that doesn't mean we can't ask additional questions that come up in the work sessions, but I think it's really important that we have the discipline and we allow staff to have time to answer those questions. And with this schedule, that means that there is a lot of time in between to get those questions prepared and written ahead of time so staff can look at them. And then questions and answers are in the packet before our discussion. And then we just follow up on anything that isn't clear. So I guess I will say again, I don't understand your unwillingness to commit to this level of transparency with our residents to get those questions in ahead of time. But so the changes
Actually,
that I
I
made,
made a motion and I was looking for a second.
You didn't get
I
one.
thought I almost heard one.
you didn't get one. I would like to move
Well,
to
actually,
adopt this schedule as presented.
Wait, no, I'm running the meeting.
Can I do a
Mayor Pro
point
Tem.
of order?
Yeah, please.
Just one at a time, please. Just because we have
Can you
we have
repeat
people
your
online who can't
amendment?
hear everything. So, yeah, just asking everyone's patience to just one at a time. Thank you.
Emmett, can you please repeat your motion?
Yeah, I was moving to adopt this schedule as a framework, but I was pushing back on codifying this idea that all questions from council need to be submitted. I think it's generally a week, sometimes a little bit more than a week ahead of time to get them in the packet. I understand the intent, I agree, and I do my best to actually get questions. Just observing council over the years, I know it's challenging. But also sometimes, people will approach us with ideas and thoughts about parts of the budget, and to try and incorporate them so soon. I think with the transparency piece, I think that it makes it harder for people to, if we don't really keep open to discussing the budget during the sessions, I think it actually defeats the purpose. If we just get the questions ahead of time and all they're answered, and we don't talk about things. I don't think
You're
that's
misrepresenting
Wait,
what I'm
hold on,
trying to
hold on,
present
hold
as a
on.
proposal.
Hold on. I made a motion. I was repeating the motion. Is there a second? And
Second.
Ms. Pope was seconded.
But I have a comment.
Okay, and I believe Mayor Pro Tem, you spoke. If you want to speak some more, I'm open to that.
My purpose is to be disciplined about getting as many questions done ahead of time so that staff has time to respond. They are in the packet with questions and answers ahead of time. As I believe I said just a few minutes ago, this does not preclude any further conversation during those budget work sessions. If other questions come up, if clarifications need to be made if you think of something that you didn't think of before, that of course can be brought up in the work session. But I think we should get into better habits about not asking things right, especially about something as important as the budget, right at the last minute, and then staff has to scramble to respond. So I am not precluding any conversation or questions that may come up during the work session, or any commentary by residents who may attend those work session meetings. I just think that this gives us a framework and a time frame. And yeah, if you don't get your questions in, you don't get your questions in. But I guess I do not understand the pushback in making this and it doesn't even say a deadline. It says written questions to staff by 3/31 for inclusion in packet on 4/3, for example. I just would appreciate very much if you didn't misrepresent my intention in this by acting like I'm saying that we're not going to have any discussions of the budget or that new questions can't be brought up. I think it is better for everybody if we can have these discussions, if the questions can be prepared and answered ahead of time, so we can focus the discussion on things that are not clear or actual making policy discussions about the budget. That we get what I have seen in the past is that we get into really nitty-gritty detailed questions about the budget during these work sessions, which makes them take a very long time. However, if we can get those really nitty-gritty, what does this mean, what is this, all of those detailed questions as much as possible addressed ahead of time, we can actually talk about the big issues in the work session and not all the little details, because those will have already been answered.
That's not what I really said. I just said that it's a framework. I think you're kind of reading a little bit more into my suggestion, which is just based on experience than I actually articulated. Please, council, is there any other discussion? We can, Ms. Pope, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think you both are hearing different things. I don't think that the mayor meant to not be transparent when we're doing our budget sessions. I think that's a misinterpretation. I'm also thinking that I understand what you're saying but you know what, we've been doing this for the past few years, that we encourage everyone to provide their questions earlier, so we have the answers when we actually meet. So I don't have a problem with that either, because I think it's a great idea. Now, I think the issue is with putting a time frame on it. That, you know, you said you wanted a week and a half. I think that is what the real problem is here. And I think we can't micromanage everyone and make such requirements. But I do agree that you should have your questions ready, put them in ahead of time, so staff has time to research and have proper responses for it, and not at the meeting, and then have to get back to you. So that's a definite yes for me as well. But you know, the time frame, I think that's where the little issue is, and I think no one wants to disparage anybody's comments, but this is what it, you know. So everybody just take a deep breath, and you know, no one is wrong, and we can agree on something, I'm sure.
Okay, Councilmember Newsom.
Thank you. There's a lot of misrepresentation going on at this table, because I'm looking at the document and it says written questions submitted by 3/31 for inclusion in packet on 4/3. We are talking about a matter of 3 or 4 days in most of these situations. I personally work very well under a deadline, and I know many people who share that. When I come to these meetings, I will be the first to admit that sometimes I am reviewing that information an hour or two before we are at the meeting. I personally really appreciate the time and effort that went into Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Weaver's suggestions for these items. Going through the budget process twice, I've noticed two things. One, we have many questions that are asked over and over again. This, having the inclusion in the packets, having that available in the written information that is going out to the public each and every time, is going to cut back on all of those individual questions. And two, it is going to make sure that, as everyone has said, our staff is properly prepared to address the questions that are going to be brought to the table. This is something that I wish we could put in place when we have any presentation from staff, because I do not like putting people on the spot. So I would be very much in favor of accepting this with these suggested dates, so that written questions can be included in the packet, and then other questions that come up can come up as they normally do during our budget work sessions.
Councilmember Fritz.
Yeah. I think part of the tension here is I might want the motion on the floor rephrased, or I would move to divide the question so that we can debate the first part, dispense with that question, then we can have the overall debate, because I'm not hearing any particular amendments to this as a document, and I think I'm fine with moving forward. I probably have the least commitments of anyone at this table, so I'm pretty flexible in my schedule. Yeah, I think I would move to divide the question, to take up separately the written questions to staff deadline first, and then we can debate the whole document as well, because I do think that's a separate motion rather than the joint motion to reject and adopt, because I think we just want to be clear on what we're voting on. So I would move that we just take up the written question section first, because that is an amendment that you're seeking, and I think then we can dispense with the rest of the document.
I'll second that.
Isn't there already a motion on the table, though?
Well, I think a motion to divide supersedes the first motion. You know, you can divide a question. So it's been seconded. So is there any additional discussion on the deadline to submit questions?
And this is to remove.
To remove that. And I'll say it again. I just, looking back over years of working with staff, the city manager and council. Please go ahead.
Keep the motion.
Keep the motion, because
So-
it's like 3 motions.
Sorry. So so we're in a secondary motion. So this is a subsidiary motion. The motion was to divide the question, so that means we are taking the original motion, we are splitting it into 2 motions, because there was a motion to adopt and there's a motion to amend, and we're separating out. So now the question is, the singular question, motion to amend to remove the written question deadlines in the document. And so a vote in favor is to remove the deadline, and a vote against maintains the text as it is.
And I was beginning to speak on the question. And briefly, based on what I've seen over the years, we do have schedules and commitments. And what I'm afraid that what will happen is by codifying this in writing the way that we're doing, it's sort of separate from a calendar item. It's more like a requirement or a deadline. And I think it'll actually stifle the ability of council members to kind of weigh in as much as they'd like to. So I personally do strive to provide written questions. And what I've seen over years is, maybe three council members will get in their questions ahead of time. So I'm just, when I said reality check, I'm just saying that looking at the council and thinking through what I've seen over the years, I think that it would be more realistic to have that kind of a goal aspirationally. Yes, it would be nice to get in the questions before the packet goes out. And yes, it would be nice if the public took the time to actually read those questions and think through it. But I think realistically, the public as well, in a written document, is not necessarily that likely to review detailed questions and answers in a budget document ahead of time. Councilmember, I think Mayor Pro Tem, you had your hand up first.
I don't have anything more to say. I'm not going to be productive in any more comments for a little bit.
Councilmember McKinney.
I think the way that this is written, I also appreciate the timelines in the document. I don't think it will preclude anybody, if someone doesn't get their questions in, they don't get their questions in. And it just says in the document, questions in by a certain period of time. It doesn't require them. So, and I also think that we heard that it doesn't preclude anybody from asking questions during the meeting. So I am actually fine keeping the dates in the document as a target, not a deadline, not a requirement. It's just something to guide us towards trying to get things in ahead of time. I think, okay. So I think the other thing that I would suggest, two things. What we don't have in here, and this probably should be something separate because it's not necessarily related to the questions, are a lot of times in the past two cycles, at least that I've been through, there's been comments from the community on what happened in the previous meetings. So how are we summarizing the discussions that happened during that meeting so that there is a clear understanding of, not that there was any action taken, but what were some of the key points that were discussed in that. And yes, we have those points that come in our meeting minutes, but often, especially during the budget season, the minutes for the meeting might not come until far after, or people are not going to sit and listen to a Zoom recording for that. So I would ask, and maybe this is more of a question for Mr. Samarone, for us to think about how we want to summarize the discussion that happened in each of these budget meetings to get that out to the public quickly. I tried to do it, I know, last year as much as I could, just like quick summary. Here were the key points that were discussed. So, and then if there's a time frame for having that happen, that would be also great to be transparent with our community about that. And then my last point is around just the types of questions as well. So when we get into these meetings, we don't really have like guiding questions. It's just questions, and they can be questions about small things, big things, and I'm wondering if we can be a little bit more strategic around how we're going about the discussion on certain topics. So to the point that was made before, we want it to be around the policy decisions, big changes and things that we need to make, not necessarily around whether or not a period was at the end of the sentence or a number was misrepresented. I want us to have the discussion that's really driving if there's going to be policy changes. So would it be helpful to, in each of the budget packets, to maybe have a set of questions or a summary to say, here are the key actions that we need to discuss during those specific meetings? I'm trying to think through how we approach the conversation in a much more intentional and strategic way.
Well, thank you. Councilmember Pompey.
I'm fine with Mr. Summerall wants to answer
Sorry,
Ms.
Mr.
McKinney's
Summerall,
question
please go ahead.
first.
I can think of two tangible things, and one we already do. The two tangible actions to generate content and summarize the meetings. One, I was inspired by what you were doing last year, and now that we have the Otter AI and the Zoom AI, they generate summary and it's getting better. I think we would leverage that technology to put out the information. Also, at the work sessions, the council doesn't make decisions at work sessions. So the way that we track it is when there's a request for modification or some change, we track those requests for every meeting, and then at the final budget review, we provide council with a table of all the requests that have been made by council, and council votes on each request. Out of that budget meeting, when they vote on that final request, it makes it to the final ordinance. So what we could do is, instead of waiting until that final budget review to provide that template that we provide, we can have it ready at every council meeting and add each request to a running table. That way, as part of every packet, you see what was the request from the previous week, and we're just building onto it, so you'll know what budget changes you will be voting on at the final budget review. So those are two tangible things I can see. We already have a process for it and implementing and making it clear. Did I answer your questions? Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Councilmember Pompey.
Thank you. I just concur with my colleagues to my right. I'm fine with having the deadlines in here. I think sometimes you get your questions in, sometimes maybe you don't. But I think the idea is to, encourage all of us or remind all of us that this is an additional task that we have to do. And if you don't get them in, then you just ask them at the table. A lot of times the questions are the same. That's something that I have found. Like when I submit my questions, then I'll see Councilmember McKee's questions. I'm like, oh, three of his questions are the same. So I don't think that it's detrimental. If you don't get the questions in, you just ask them at the table anyway. So I think that it's great to try and get them into staff. I don't see this is a problem, especially because it's laid out so far in advance. So it's not like, okay, next week we got to have it done. We've got plenty of notice as to when the meetings are, when the suggested dates for getting questions to staff. And I think that's the idea is that, there's suggestions. It's it's like a best practice, right? This is what we're all aiming for. This is our guide here. And I think that, to me, that's helpful. I don't think that there's any problems with it. So I'm happy to accept the document as is.
Okay, yes, Mr. Summerall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing we appreciate about the question is when we get an email about the questions, we put it on a SharePoint document, and we're able to tag all the different employees in a centralized document. And then that gets printed in a PDF and submitted to council. What we could do is I could open up that SharePoint document when we create it and have council have access to it. That way you could just directly type that question in there, and we have a running list. And also James pulls from that SharePoint document. Internally, everyone can see it. And then we also had last year implemented a sort of a workflow. Tim, the assistant city manager, was going through there, making sure we're using the same font and we're using the right verbs and editing, because when you have all the senior staff contributing to it, we all have our different writing styles, and so we wanted to make it presentable to council. So in short, we could also open up that SharePoint document so that the questions could go in there in real time.
Better. Because then we would know that we're not repeating questions.
Well, frankly, the discussion, the points about if you get it in you get it in, and if you don't, you can talk about it. And as a framework, which is what I started off as saying, that is sort of what I was saying to begin with. Just having this as a hard deadline. You have to get all of your questions in, or else. That's all I was doing. So let's go ahead, and if Ms. Pope doesn't have anything to say, let's go ahead and vote on my motion.
What are we voting on?
The motion right now is to separate the two, correct? So that's what we're voting on now.
That's correct. So all in favor of separating the question, please say aye.
No. Sorry, I should have forgot.
Aye. You made the motion. Right?
Yes, this is just the motion to separate.
Yeah.
Separate.
Yes, I vote in favor of my motion to separate.
Okay, the motion fails. So let's go ahead and vote on the underlying proposal to accept the budget work session schedule proposal as written. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Wasn't the motion?
Well, I don't think, right, yeah.
There's a second on the underlying motion.
But there
I
was
tried to
no.
amend.
There was the
there was
original
no second
motion.
on his motion.
Councilmember Pope seconded.
She did. She did. She did.
So your motion is to accept it as is?
I will go ahead, if it's okay with Ms. Pope, and make a friendly amendment to the motion to accept it as is, as written. Is that okay with you, Ms. Pope?
That's fine.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So other than that, with the calendar, you had made some modifications based on Public Works doing this incredible job over the past few days. So they will not be meeting with us on Monday. Instead, we're moving legislative discussion to Monday with the APA discussion. Is that correct?
Correct, that's the proposal, and then we'll have the quarterly update on February 11th.
Okay. Are there any other modifications to the calendar?
No, that's the only one that we're proposing now, and that's just to accommodate the Public Works and, yeah.
Okay. So is there a motion to, yes, Mr. Summerall?
With the approval that you have, that does trigger adjusting the schedule that you have. There are, for example, the spring break, the Easter Monday, we will go back this week and update the schedule so that it reflects what you just approved.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So is there a motion to adopt the budget, the overall calendar as amended?
So moved.
Okay. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Additional discussion.
Please.
We have two open work sessions on March 2nd and 4th, and I'd like to reserve one of them for our next council meet and greet, because we're supposed to be doing those quarterly, and we're really not going to have another chance to do one until June. So I'd like to do the meet and greet on one of those 2 days, that Monday or that Wednesday, the 2nd or the 4th.
Okay.
Are there any
So,
preferences?
well, I was just going to say we're trying to work with our new county council member to actually bring them in for a meet and greet. While waiting until March might be a little bit of time. Would you
want to do that earlier? Is that what you're
Earlier
saying?
sessions for that.
Uh-huh.
We could do it on the 18th of this month if they're free. I don't know. Or of, not,
It
not
just
this
depends
month.
on his schedule.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Why don't we ask him?
We should need to ask him. Ms. Lashley Mullen, did you have a point of order or question?
February 18th, that has been rescheduled for the advisory board interviews that was scheduled for
Oh, that's
tonight.
right. That's right. Right. But yeah, you want to add a council meet and greet either March 2nd or March the 4th.
Yeah, could we put it into one of those days, maybe on the...
How about March 4th?
Yeah, let's just put it there, and if we have to shift it for our council member, then we can shift it, but I think if we can...
Or give him the option and ask him 2nd or 4th. I mean,
Yeah, but let's put the meet and greet on the 4th, knowing that we could be flexible if Councilmember Adams needs us.
We could do that. I have a conflict on the 4th. I believe the Mayor's Association is having its meeting on the 4th, 5th, and 6th. I might not be available on that date. How about the 2nd?
Wouldn't you...
That would be great. That'd be my birthday.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing two things. We're talking about scheduling a meet and greet with Tim
On the
Adams
4th.
and a council meet and greet, which would be the community, open to the community. And you're flexible to doing one or the other.
Honestly, I would hope that Councilmember Adams would host the meet and greet himself. I don't know that we need to host it for him, but, yeah, so yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Councilmember McKinney.
Two things to add to it. I'm wondering if we can look at any of these upcoming meetings to try to have them not in the council chambers and try to have something outside of the city center. I don't know what would be the best topic to do that, but it would be great if we could start to think about that in addition to looking at the dates for upcoming meetings. Let's also think about, are there times that it fits well to do it outside of the city center?
Oh, I think that's a great suggestion. Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. So,
I'm sorry, let me just follow up. I don't necessarily have a recommendation right now, and maybe in your upcoming scheduling conversations that you usually have, my request is that if you can look through, we're going through June now, if we can at least identify one or two meetings that we can have outside of the city center.
yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. I don't think we need to hammer that out, but it's a point of reference for staff and for agenda setting. Just so yeah, let's try and do that.
In addition to the meet and greet?
I am open to whatever meeting works the best for that. I don't have a specific one. So, I mean,
I think definitely having the meet and greet, I definitely want to do that outside of city center. But I agree, like maybe we could do, I don't know, I know it's harder to do regular meetings. But if we wanted to do one of our budget work sessions, if one of those would fit doing it somewhere else, in the city, I think that would be great. But I would defer to you on which would work best.
We do usually do the Greenridge House over there, but another session.
That's still
Yeah.
a city center.
Yes, it is. Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just going to comment on the Greenridge House one, but that is still city center. That at least is not in the municipal building and makes it easier for the residents of Greenridge House to come to that session, but it is still the city center.
Well, let's make a point of doing that and thinking through the logistics of where we could do it in such a way that we could still stream or record or get a good turnout. Councilmember Fritz, you look like you were about to say something. Councilmember Pope. So, do you need any additional guidance on? Go back. Yeah, I was about to vote on it. So, I made a motion. I believe there was a second on adopting the calendar as we've amended.
I think just to reiterate the amendments, the changes are the quarterly so that it will be legislative meeting on the 2nd, quarterly meeting on the 11th, and then advisory board interviews on the 18th, all February. And then a meet and greet on the 2nd.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, please, council member.
Do we, it looks like they're TBDs for the dates that are MML, is that correct? So should we just?
Well, that's June.
Right.
I don't think we really need to hammer that out right now. What is it, the 14th through the 17th?
The 15th and the 17th will be MML. So we would update the calendar to say no meetings that the 15th and the 17th.
Great.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've got that. So, council activities, council reports, Mayor Pro Tem meetings, council activities.
Yeah. There's what we have. Comments from anybody?
Well, it's still a lot of activities. So January, busy time of the year.
Yeah,
Anybody want to comment?
Sure. I chaired my first Chesapeake Bay policy, water policy committee meeting on Friday, and it went really well. And one thing that I learned, we talked about salt, because obviously this is the time of year where we're salting our roads, we're salting our sidewalks. And one thing that was shared was that like one coffee cup full of salt is generally enough salt for 10 sidewalk squares or like 20 feet of driveway. So it just really emphasized to me how you really need to be using salt very sparingly, because once that salt goes into our watershed, it's there forever. Like, it's never coming out. So sometimes you see like inches of salt piled upon, and it actually doesn't work as well when you do that. So you might think you're putting all that salt down and you're really going to melt your ice, but that's not how it works. So anyway, that was really interesting. It was a great meeting. And then ACE, we had our principals meeting last night, and Councilmember McKinney attended. It was a great meeting. We're going to be having, hopefully next month, we will be having our Student Government / National Honor Society meeting, which we plan to invite Councilmember McKinney to as well, just to sort of help with her efforts as recruiting to the Youth Advisory Committee and sort of forming that and reshaping that. And I think meeting with those students will be helpful. So, yeah, just really great stuff.
Anybody want to comment on other activities? So many things. Councilmember Fritz.
Yes, I attended my first CPC. It's a very, the acronym doesn't actually work. It's a very bad backronym. So it's Climate, Energy, Environment Policy Committee, I believe. I'm still learning that. But I had my first meeting, and they gave us a briefing similar to some of the things we talked about today, but it was mostly on they're setting priorities for that committee, looking at the new year. So data centers are obviously going to be a huge priority for discussion in the next couple CPC meetings. It's going to meet bi-monthly, and other things that were brought up were adoption of electric vehicle chargers. So, I presume, and very good news, Greenbelt is led the region in our tree canopy. So about 61% coverage of our tree canopy. There's only one jurisdiction that had more coverage than we did. So we got planting, everyone. No, we got a special shout out in terms of municipalities and our tree canopy. So how we're contributing to the overall regional goal of a 50% tree canopy across the member jurisdictions. So we're doing our part. We're 11% ahead of that target for the rest of the region.
Well, thank you. Hey, I attended the COG board meeting, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago, and one of the things that we did is they distributed and we approved COG's legislative priorities. So as we're having these conversations about legislative priorities, we need to integrate those, as well as the county executive at District 22 night out in Annapolis. The county executive was the keynote speaker, and she actually presented the county's legislative priorities. So we need to kind of intertwine, read and understand all of these priorities as we do, and kind of blend them into to our priorities so that we can advocate not just for Greenbelt, but for the entire region. So if there's no further discussion, Councilmember Palmer.
Just one more thing. At my CBPC meeting, one thing when we had our legislative briefing that they talked about was that, as we all know, the state has quite a budget deficit this year, and something that they're expecting and that we should be on the lookout too is that the state is going to start trying to pass costs down to the counties and down to the municipalities. So that's just something for us to be aware of as we are looking at bills going forward. And it's happening here, it's happening in Virginia, and it doesn't just have to do with environmental policy. This is sort of across the board, something to just watch for, that there's going to be a trickle down of expenses to us.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things that Ms. J. Davis sent us is that there's a proposal to amend the highway user revenues distribution, so that will cut it from 3% down to some percent. So yes, so that one popped out because I shared with council that we are expecting a $74,000 reduction in our highway user funds for the current year and next fiscal year. So that if that reduction is going to decrease in the coming years, that's going to impact our road maintenance budget because we use highway revenue to take care of our streets.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, I think we've covered all the bases here, so let's go ahead and call it a night. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Is there a second? Second. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes as